Hey guys, I welcome you all to the live session on Power BI tutorial by Intellipaat. This session is conducted by multiple experts who will be teaching you everything about Power BI from basics to advanced level, along with hands-on demo and interview preparation. Before we begin the session, make sure to hit the subscribe button and also like our videos so that it will motivate us to come up with more such live sessions. Now let's see the agenda. Firstly, we will begin with Introduction to Business Intelligence and Data Analysis. After that, we will introduce you to Power BI. In that, we will tell you what is Power BI, how to install that, and also we will give you an overview of the Power BI desktop. Then later on, we will learn about data modeling and data visualization. After that, we will tell you how to create reports using Power BI. Then post that, we will learn about Power BI DAX. Then we will move on to relationship in Power BI. After that, we will be giving you all the details about Power BI certification. Then finally, we have covered Power BI interview questions and answers. So guys, this is the agenda of the video. Without any further delay, let's get started.
What is business intelligence? Business intelligence basically is a set of techniques, is a set of tools which helps us to solve business related problems using the data. Okay, using business related data, when you want to solve some problems, when you want to get some answers related to your business or like whatever difficulty you are getting in your business, so using that historical data, when you want to get some answers, that process basically we can say it is a business intelligence. Business intelligence is not a tool, right? It's just a technology. Okay, it is same as like ERP, enterprise resource planning, and in ERP we have multiple tools. Okay, let me just try to explain you here. So in ERP, enterprise resource planning, we have SAP. This is one ERP. We have Microsoft Nav. We have Microsoft AX. We have Business Central. Right. There are other ERPs also in the market, and the one very basic ERP is Tally. Also, Tally is also a ERP. In the same way, like when I say CRM, there are multiple CRM softwares in the market, like Salesforce. Maybe you have heard the name of this, and there's Dynamics Microsoft CRM. Right. So when I say BI, so in the same way, BI is not a tool. It's just a technology. It's just a technology which helps you to solve your business related problems using the business data. So in BI, there are multiple tools in this domain also. So like Power BI, Tableau, multiple tools also in this list, right? But these two are the like competitors or the market leaders, Power BI and Tableau. Okay. So basically now you should not understand like BI is a tool. No, BI is a technology and Power BI is a tool, right? So using Power BI, we can solve our data related problems. We can ask the answers. We can ask the questions on our business data, right? Now, second thing, SSBI. SSBI is almost same as to the BI, but the thing is in BI, what we do, how we work, let's say as a user, I have some requirement, right? For example, I want to see total orders, total sales orders, and shipped orders, and the outstanding orders, right? So I want to see such a basic report in this simply in the tabular format. Okay, so this is my requirement. Now what I'll do, this requirement I have to share with a developer, with IT team, or maybe with consultant. Okay, so I'll share my requirement with them. They will understand that, they will prepare some costing and all. There are a lot of things will happen between this. Okay, so this is a way like when you can share your requirement, when a business user can share your requirement with IT team, right? This is a normal process like which we do for not only for BI, for other tools and other technologies also. Fine. Now, when you work in this way, like in the managed BI, right? When managed BI is like something when you share your requirement with other team, with other person, and they have to understand your requirement. Based on that, they have to estimate the efforts. Then they will give you a costing, right? So it's a managed BI. Every time you cannot go to the user or you cannot go to the developer, okay, because it's there are a lot of limitations, there are a lot of disadvantage of it, like time. It will take a lot of time, costing, high cost, and dependency on other team and a lack of requirement, because whatever you know as a business user, when you will transfer your requirement to the developer, then obviously there will be some gaps. Okay, so this is the managed BI basically. What is SSBI then? SSBI is a way where business user can prepare their reports by themselves, right? So self-service stands for, SSBI stands for self-service business intelligence. Self-service business intelligence. So as the name suggests you that it is a self-service BI. It means a business user can develop their report in Power BI without having much technical knowledge or without having much depth knowledge of BI tool, right? So this SSBI is basically supported by most of the BI tools. Like Power BI is also a SSBI tool. It works as a SSBI tool. It means business users can also use Power BI even if they are not from the technical background, if they are not from any programming background. Even then, they can use the Power BI for building their reports, for building their dashboards, their data sets, data models, right? So this is the basic thing like which we need to understand, like what is BI, what is SSBI. Okay. Although when you have some advanced requirement, when you want to build some complex report where a lot of queries, a lot of like data handling and data modeling is required, then no problem. In at that time, you can go to the some other team or maybe some developers. Okay, it depends organization to organization. It depends on like team to team. Okay. Why I'm explaining this SSBI concept? Because when we say like what is Power BI, right? The very basic question, what is the Power BI? So many people says that it is a BI tool. Many people will say like it is a visualization tool. Power BI is basically a reporting or a BI tool with having advanced data analytical capabilities, right? Advanced data analytical capabilities includes a lot of things. So as of now, Power BI, very first, it's a Microsoft tool, and Microsoft launched it somewhere in October 2015, right? I'm just giving you a history about the Power BI. And Microsoft release new updates of Power BI every month, right? New updates. So it means every month you need to update your Power BI desktop. Okay. When I'm saying Power BI desktop, what is it? Power BI components. When I'm saying Power BI components, what are the different tools? What are the different components which comes under this list? The first is Power BI desktop. I'm sure that most of you are already aware with this. Next, we have Power BI service. Then we have Power BI data gateway. We have Power BI report server, Power BI mobile app, Power BI Excel publisher, and Power BI embedded. Okay. Here, one thing also we can add, Power BI report builder, right? So when I say we are going to learn Power BI, then it doesn't mean like we are going to learn only one tool. We will learn multiple things. Although it is one tool, but the architecture, but the different components of Power BI are Power BI desktop, Power BI service, Power BI data gateway, Power BI report server, mobile app, Power BI Excel publisher, Power BI report builder, and Power BI embedded, right? So these are the all tools which you can use for building your reports, data models, paginated reports, on-premises reports, right? Let's have a quick look of all these tools, right? What is the purpose of these tools? What we can do with all these, okay? So the very first is Power BI Desktop. Why do we use Power BI Desktop? Power BI Desktop is a standalone tool. It's a standalone software which you can install in your machine, and you use it for developing the data model and reports. Using the Power BI Desktop, what you do, you can develop the data model. And when I say like developing the data model, then we have to perform the ETL operations. What is ETL? It's completely new topic for you. So let me note it down here. We'll come to this ETL part. So you can develop the data model using the ETL operations, and you can develop reports in Power BI desktop. Okay. So this is the role, or this is the purpose of Power BI desktop. Now we goes to Power BI service. The role of Power BI service is it's a cloud web interface which you use for interacting your reports and to develop the dashboards and for sharing reports and dashboard sharing and admin control and mobile dashboards and design, right? There are also some other functionalities, some other things which you can do using the Power BI service. Okay. So this is the purpose of Power BI service. So Power BI service is not a tool, it's a cloud web interface. It means it's a SaaS application. So what is SaaS? So for Power BI service, you don't need to install anything. What you need, only you need a browser and you need the Power BI service credentials. Okay, fine. Now, Power BI service we use for interacting the reports, like for viewing the reports, for filtering the data in the reports. We can develop the dashboards also on Power BI service. We can share reports and dashboard with our colleagues, with within our organization or outside our organization, depends. We can manage all the admin activities. We can develop the mobile dashboards, and there are some other also things like a subscription, email subscription. You can set the alerts. You can ask questions. There are a lot of things which you can do on Power BI service. Okay. Power BI data gateway. What is the purpose of data gateway? So once you deploy your report on the Power BI service, then you need to refresh data in your reports. Okay. For example, today I developed a report. I deployed it on the Power BI service. Now this report will be showing the data of till yesterday. Okay. But next day, I want to see the updated data in the report, right? So how you can enable the auto refresh in your report? Manual refresh also you can do, but which is not possible, right? Every day you cannot manually refresh it. So what you can do, you can enable the scheduled data refresh using the data gateway, right? So it helps you to enable scheduled data refresh in data sets, reports, and dashboards, right? So this is the purpose of data gateway. Now, what is the role of Power BI report server? It's an alternate of Power BI service. It's an alternate option of Power BI service, or I can say it's a substitute of Power BI service. Okay. It means whatever you do here, everything you can do here, everything you cannot do here, but yes, most of the things you can do. Like, first of all, it is also a web interface. It's a web portal, but it's a on-premises. It's an on-prem web interface. It's not hosted on the cloud. It is hosted within your organization, within your domain, within the intranet, not on the internet. Okay. So this one you can use to interact with reports, right? And you can use it for admin activities. So these are the basic things which you can do using the Power BI report server. In Power BI report server, you cannot develop the dashboards, right? So dashboards is a feature of cloud Power BI only. It is not feature of on-premises Power BI. So on Power BI report server, we can call it also on-premises Power BI, right? And this is Power BI service is a cloud Power BI. It's a cloud version. All right. Now the next is mobile app. So mobile app also we use for interacting the reports and dashboards for sharing purpose. Next is Power BI Excel Publisher. You can integrate Excel and Power BI. It means you can leverage your Excel reports or your Excel visualizations or your Excel data to integrate or to add in Power BI reports or in Power BI dashboards. Okay, because Excel is a very powerful and the most commonly used tool by all the users. So next tool is Power BI Report Builder. Power BI report builder basically we use to develop paginated reports. When I say paginated reports, what does it mean? What are the paginated reports? Paginated reports are basically pixel perfect reports. When I say pixel perfect report means, like, for example, your invoices, your receipts, or delivery notes, right? So such kind of reports we can say are pixel perfect or a paginated reports, because in these reports the template, the format would be always fixed. So if you want to design or if you want to develop such kind of things, then you can use another tool, which is Power BI Report Builder. We use it especially for developing the paginated reports, where we need to fix that on page one, number of like 30 records should be appear. On page two, again 30 rows should be appeared, right? So something where you want to fix the template, where you want to fix the format of your report, right? So the, for example, like invoices. In your invoices, there is a fixed format. It is not going to change like for any customer or for any region or for any specific filter or for any specific data. The format of your invoice would be always same. Content within the invoice may change. Like sometime the customer name is this, or maybe you can print another invoice with for another customer. Okay. So these are the things which we need to just understand, like what are the use or what are the purpose of these. Okay. Because before we understand, before we start learning or working on these, we should have a broad idea in our mind that what are the tools we have, what are the tools we are going to learn, and what are the purpose of different tools. When we deploy our report on the Power BI service, then the next question would be like how the data would refresh in our reports or in our dashboards. So now, if you have listened all these things, if you have seen all these components and the purpose of these components, then you would have a basic idea in your mind. Yes, there was some tool that was the data gateway, which helps us to enable the scheduled data refresh, right? All right, so now we have just a basic overview of all the components. There is one more, which is Power BI Embedded. Let's see this one also. Power BI Embedded basically enables to do the integration of Power BI reports and dashboards in other tools. What I said, integration of Power BI reports in other tools. When I say in other tools, like if you want to integrate a Power BI report in SharePoint, in CRM, in any ERP tool, or in, let's say, in any website, or in any blog, or in any mobile app, right? So there may be multiple things where you can integrate your reports or your dashboards in other tools, in other applications. Okay, so it's not tool, it's applications. For doing this integration, you need a programmatical knowledge. Like either if you know about C Sharp, Java, Python, right? Or there are other tools, other languages also through which you can do this integration. And how does this integration works? Using the APIs. Means you can call Power BI API through any programming language. What is API? Application Programming Interface. So it's just a way, it's just a medium which you can use to extract or to integrate the Power BI features inside the other applications, like all these, using C Sharp, Java, Python, or any other programming language. Okay. But data interaction is possible on report server. Yes, data interaction is possible on report server. You can see here I have written interact reports, right? Data interaction we can do through the reports on report server, right? It means if you if you develop your report in Power BI desktop, right? Because Power BI desktop is purely a development tool. After developing your report in Power BI desktop, now you have choice whether you can deploy it on the Power BI service or you can deploy it on the Power BI report server. Okay. But it depends on company to company, because some organizations are not using the Power BI report server. Okay. They are using the Power BI service only, because Power BI service provides you a lot of features and functionalities in comparison to Power BI report server. Power BI report server is having some limitations, but the point is if Power BI report server is having some limitations, then why it is available in the market? Why Microsoft is giving this option as a substitute of Power BI service? Why? So the answer is some organizations don't want to put their data or their reports on the cloud because of security concern. For example, some financial institutes, government companies, agencies, and some banking institutions, right? So such kind of organizations don't want to put their data or reports on the cloud service because of the security concern. So what they want? They want to put all their information within their domain only, within their intranet, okay, within their premises only. They don't want to go on the cloud. They want to be in their premises. So in that scenario, companies can use Power BI report server. Okay, but when you start using the Power BI report server, then you have some limitations also. Like first thing is it is not a cloud service. It means you will not be able to access it from anywhere. When you are connected with your organization's internet, where you are in your company's domain, only then you will be able to access the reports. Although using the VPN you can access it, but you cannot access it without VPN directly from anywhere. You cannot create the dashboards because there is no concept of dashboard in Power BI report server. Dashboard is available only in the Power BI service. Okay. And apart from this, there are some other features also which does not exist in Power BI report server in on-premises Power BI. Fine. Is it clear? Can the embedded report or dashboard gets refreshed as the scheduled gateway refresh datasets? Yes, we can do that also. It means we have to call gateway APIs also through the programming approach, right? So the data will be automatically refreshed here also, right? So these are the different tools or different services which we will be using or which we will be learning. Okay, so now here I mentioned ETL, right? What is ETL? So ETL is extract, transform, and load. It's not a single, it's not a one thing. These are the three things, right? E stands for extract, T stands for transform, and L stands for load. So I see one question here. Does report server requires gateway? A very good question. So when you want to schedule the data refresh, when you want to automatically refresh the data in the on-premises reports, then what you need to do, right? In that situation, you cannot use the Power BI data gateway. Why? Because data gateway you can use only for the Power BI service. Means if you want to refresh the report which is in the Power BI service, then you can use the Power BI data gateway. But what about those reports which you have deployed in Power BI report server in on-premises Power BI? For refreshing the data in these reports which you have in the report server, you need to use its internal data refresh, right? So here it's SQL agent basically behind the scene you will use SQL agent jobs. Okay, so for refreshing the data in this Power BI report server, you will have to use SQL server agent jobs, not Power BI gateway. Okay, okay. So next, okay, so we are here for ETL. Okay, so what is ETL? So ETL is basically extract, transform, and load. So it is very easy to explain by just seeing the full form of it. Let me explain it through an example. So for example, you have some data in SAP, right? Okay, so currently, what is the data source in your company, guys? Because for that also, for that only, I'll be taking the examples. What is the major source of the data in your company? Okay, Excel, XML, Workday, SQL. Okay, fine. So let me remove SAP from here. For example, if your data is in Excel, right, then what you will do first, you will extract the data from Excel. From Excel, you will extract the data first, right? It means you will pull all the data from Excel. After that, you need to transform that. What does it mean transform? Like in Excel, you may be having some data where you have the null values, you have the blank values. Okay, so you need to handle such kind of scenarios. Or let's suppose in your Excel data you have two columns. Okay, for example, you have a customer first name and customer last name. So what you want to make a another column by concatenating these two values. Okay, so what you'll do, you will have to create another column. Okay, so this is also part of transformation. So basically when you transform your data, when you manipulate your data, that step we call it as a transformation. It could be like cleaning of your data, aggregation of your data, grouping of your data, handling the null values, blank values, changing the data types of your data, right? It could have like anything. So this is transform, right? Once your data is transformed, and you can say now your data is ready for the use, is your data is ready for reporting purpose. Okay, then finally you load this data somewhere in storage, right? In any storage you have to load it. In our case, we use Power BI internal storage, right? But in some other technologies, like in data warehouses, we load this data in some other database. In that database, we can say a data warehouse. Okay, we are not going to that side, the data warehousing side. So all these things we can also do in Power BI. It means in Power BI, we can extract the data from Excel. Power BI, we can transform the data, and we can load the data in Power BI, the storage model, after compressing the data also. Okay, this is the important thing. Power BI can compress the data. Let's say you have some data in your, for example, in any table. Okay, so for example, you have some invoices table. Okay, so in that table, basically you have, let's say, 250 MB of data in this table. And when you extract this data in Power BI, then Power BI will compress this data based on its internal algorithms. Okay, and the size would be around like 10 to 20 MB only, right? So it depends on the nature of your data and on the source. Okay, but somewhere it will shrink, it will just compress your data, right, within just 20 MB only. Okay, all right. So it means Power BI can also store your data within its internal storage model. Okay, so it doesn't mean like Power BI can only create a report, it can store the data also. Like in Excel, there are some other components like Excel Power Pivot, Power Query, right? So in Excel also you can store the data, and Power Pivot also you can load the data, right? So in the same way you can do that into the Power BI also. Why Power BI can do all these things? Because the in the behind the back end of Power BI, Microsoft is using all the features, all the Excel add-in components, right? Like Power Query, Power View, Power Pivot, Power Map. All these were the like very old tools of Microsoft, which people were using as an add-in in the Excel, right? So what Microsoft did, Microsoft just consolidating the features of all different tools and added some advanced analytical things, and they made a tool which is Power BI. Okay, Power BI is almost like 60% you can relate with Excel or its plugin. Okay, you will see like almost even the button names, button positions are also same in Excel, as you see, right? In Excel you can see here, if you go to the data tab, in data tab, you can see that the filter, advanced, cleaning the data, removing the duplicates, grouping, ungrouping, refreshing it, getting the data from any different sources, right? So if what you see here, in the same way, basically you can do all these things in Power BI, and even the placement of the buttons, name of the buttons is also same for most of the things, right? So it means people can relate Power BI with Excel easily. That's why Power BI is much easier for business users to develop their reports. Why? Because they can relate it with Excel, and Excel is a tool like which is like in use by every people. Okay, in comparison to Tableau, it's Power BI, or its comparison to another BI tools, Power BI is much user friendly. Why? Because you can relate it with Excel. Power BI desktop is a free tool, you don't need to pay anything for it. It's just go to internet, download it and install it and start using it. But Power BI service comes with three type of licenses. What are these three type of licenses? One is free license, second is pro, and third is premium. Means Power BI free, Power BI pro, and Power BI premium. Now, what are the differences between them? Free is having very limited functionalities, and even it is not recommended for using it for production purpose. Okay. Power BI free you can use as an individual user or for your learning and for POC purpose only. Okay. It can be used for individual user. As an individual user, you can use it. Pro is having all the features which you can access into the free version. Additionally, plus you can use some advanced features, right? What kind of the advanced features? Like sharing or bulk sharing or data refresh or email subscriptions or data alerts, workspaces management, and there are many things. In Power BI Premium, you can do more advanced things. Means what you can do in Pro, that is included, plus you can do more advanced things. More advanced features you can use. What are the more advanced features? Like AI capabilities, artificial intelligence capabilities, ML machine learning capabilities, and some additional things are like you can use it for enterprise usage, or I can say for large user base. Means if there are like 2000 people, 5000 people in organization and all wants to use the Power BI, then they can use the Power BI Premium. Now point comes that what are the costing for these? What is the price? So for free, obviously it is free. So price is $0. You don't need to pay anything. It's free, but limited usage, limited functionalities. Okay. And you can use it as an individual user. You cannot share anything with your team, with any of the person. Next comes Power BI Pro. So the Pro license cost you $10 per user per month. $10 per user per month. And the Power BI Premium costs you $5,000 and it's per node. Power BI Premium license doesn't come user wise, it comes node wise. It means you will get a node. On one node you can deploy around like somewhere around 2000 users. Okay, if you want, if you have like 5000 users, then you have to buy another node of Power BI Premium. Okay, so Power BI Premium is a dedicated server, okay, which you will be handling and you can use it for large user base. Okay, Power BI Pro is a user base license. It means if you have 10 users, then you have to purchase 10 licenses from Microsoft and then assign those 10 licenses to those 10 people. Okay, but it's something like when you have 5000 people, then you don't need to purchase 5000 license from Microsoft. It would be very expensive for you. Okay, so what you can do, you can purchase a dedicated server, okay, and that will comes with a per node. Okay, so it is $5,000 per node and it's per year. No, it's not per year, it's per month. Very expensive one. Okay, so it means if you purchase the basic node, even a base node for it, then it will cost you, annual cost would be somewhere $60,000 for you. Yes, it is expensive one, but it comes with some advanced features and for the large user base where like around thousands of users are going to use Power BI. Okay, so this thing should be clear that Power BI desktop is completely free. Okay, Power BI service is also free, but with individual use and with limited features. We mentioned here limited features. And Power BI service comes with Pro and with Premium also, right? So you can have any license to access Power BI service.
Just a quick info, guys. Test your knowledge of Power BI by answering this question. How would you add a visual to a dashboard in Power BI? A. Embed. B. Snap. C. Stick. D. Reorder. Comment your answer in the comment section below. Subscribe to Intellipaat to know the right answer. Now, let's continue with the session.
Mike, Munad here. Quick question.
Yeah.
You say limited features. What covers under that? You can elaborate on that.
The main one is you can't share, right? You can't share. It means features you see here in the Power BI Pro, sharing is not possible in Power BI Free. It means if I create a report and I'm a free user, I cannot share with anybody. I cannot do the bulk sharing. For example, if I'm the manager, I created my report like a regional sales report, then I cannot share that report with my team. I cannot enable data refresh. I cannot use email subscription, data alerts, workspaces I cannot create, right? And there are some other things also which you cannot do in a free user.
Okay, but I can develop dashboards and interact with reports and invite others to participate in developing the report.
No, you cannot invite others. When you
But
say
I
like
can-
invite, when you say invite, it means you are sharing,
Okay.
and sharing is not allowed in free. It is completely for individual use. I can create, I can deploy, and only I can see.
I
That's
can
it.
also
And
develop
with limited.
dashboards, right?
Yes, you can develop, but with limited features.
Okay.
Yeah, many organizations I saw some organizations like they are using the free, right? Free license, but they cannot use the advanced things. They cannot use the sharing. For example, if in my organization there are like in sales team, let's say if there are like 20 people, and if they want to deploy and they want to create their report, then what they have to do? Either they have to deploy, either they all 20 people have to develop the report, the same report, or what you can do, let's say I develop the report using the Power BI desktop, and then that PBIX file, the Power BI desktop file, I can share with another users. Okay, but it's not a good approach. Why? Because if I created a report, then maybe once I share the solution with you, then you can make the change here. You can do any kind of like manipulation in the report, in the formula. Okay, but it depends on your need. It depends on the requirement. Although as a free user, you can use the Power BI desktop, okay, and you can publish your report on the Power BI service as a free user. If you want to share, then instead of sharing the report from the Power BI service, you can share the Power BI desktop file. So in this way also you can do. All right. Another question I can see here for on-premises also. See, on-premises is not free. Okay. In case of on-premises, there is not anything of free. It's completely chargeable, right? And what is the charge of that? We'll come to that point also. So Power BI server, on-premises Power BI is never free. It is always paid. There is no case of the free. And even for Power BI service also, in Power BI service also, it is free right now, yes, no doubt, but it's just a strategy of Microsoft to become a leader, to become on the number one position in market. Once it will be in the one position, they will stop this free license. Then what will happen? Everyone will have to move on to the pro or premium at least. Okay. So that's why Microsoft says that free you can use as an individual user, but it is not recommended to use for production purpose or for your company projects purpose. Why? Because free is free. Anytime can happen anything with it. Earlier, sharing was possible in the free also, right? But when Microsoft saw that most of the people are using the free only, and using free only, they can doing their activities, they can fulfilling their reporting requirement. So what they did, they simply disabled the sharing feature in free. And those users who are those organizations, like those people who are using the free as a main license for the for their organization, in very hurry burry, all reports they have to migrate, they have to publish, they have to bought the Power BI Pro license, and they started migrating everything on Pro. When people started complaining, because one of my client was using the free, so when people started complaining about the to the Microsoft, like why you are removing the sharing from free, why you are removing this thing from the free, we are using it in our company, then Microsoft just took the screenshot, which is already mentioned in their website. Then we already informed to every user, we have already mentioned in our website that free is not for production purpose. So we cannot do anything. You have to migrate your everything into the pro. Okay, so that's why free is no doubt free, but it can be dangerous also. Okay, so it's your decision which we use, right? Although Power BI Pro is $10 user per month only, but if you go for a bulk purchase, like if you want to purchase 50 license or 100 license, right, then you can negotiate on it with Microsoft, and yes, Microsoft negotiate somewhere like around some discounts can also give to you. Okay, anyways, this is all over to the licensing thing. Now I can see another question. Can I save report in PDF and share in free version? Yes, you can. You can export. You can export the report in PDF and in Excel also. You can export the data in Excel also. Okay. Yeah, and yes, in free you can do that. Okay. So now SSAS is software as a service. It means it is hosted once, and after that people can reuse it. It is a cloud-based service. You don't need to manage it. Everything would be managed by the cloud service provider only. Okay. All right. Okay. So now let's move back here. So now we understood that what is business intelligence. There are different components of business intelligence. Like in business intelligence, first we need to identify the source of data. After identifying the source of data, we need to work on it. We need to extract that. If required, we need to clean that. After cleaning that, if we want, we can like share that data set with other people, and they can also collaborate in that. For example, if I am not aware with any different department, like if I'm going to build a report with the combination of sales and finance data, then I can do my data from data transformation, which is related to the sales. But if something is like related to finance, then I can share that solution file with the finance team, and they can also integrate there. They can also collaborate into that solution. Okay. Self-service, we have already understood that. What is self-service? So self-service BI is basically something like which end users or business users can also use without having too much technical details. Okay, so this next comes to the Power BI project role. So it depends project to project or organization to organization, but the standard is like in one project, multiple people can be involved, like program manager, data architect, technical architect, or BI developer, right? But in some scenarios where Power BI we use as a self-service BI, then all these roles may not be there. Okay, all right.
Just a quick info, guys. Intellipaat provides Power BI online certification training in partnership with Microsoft, mentored by industry experts. The course link is given in the description below. Now, let's continue with the session.
When we say data sources, then what do we understand from the data sources term? Okay. Because there are few things like data source. So here when I say data source, right? So what is it? Data set, what is this? And data model, what is this? Okay. So basically data set and data model is the same thing, we can say in Power BI. But what are these? And data sources can be further categorized in like cloud data sources or on-premises data sources, and how it is related to the reports and how it is related to the dashboard. These things we need to understand, because these are a few things like which we will be like using in the entire training. Okay, so we should be aware, and we should be having a clear cut idea of all these things. Okay, we should not be confused that what is between data set and data source. Okay, because most of the people says that it is the same thing, data set or data source. No, these are the different thing. Okay, and how the data flows from your data source to dashboard. Okay, how data flows from your data source to dashboard. Now let's have a look of these things: data source, data set or data model, or reports and dashboards. Okay, so here I'm going to give an example to you. Let's say I have Excel and I have SAP, I have Workday, and I have CRM system. I have some data in, let's say, in JSON file, and some data I have in Azure SQL database. So what are all these things? We cannot say like this is a database. No, because Excel is not a database. Excel is a file, although it is can be considered as a database, right? But all these are what? These are the data sources. I'm just explaining it because in Power BI or in any BI system, we use some terms like data source, data sets, data models, and what are these things? We need to be very clear about these things, right? So these are the data source. There are some like Excel, SAP, and Workday. So these data sources can be categorized in like cloud or on-premises nature, right? So what is Excel? Excel is on-premises. SAP is also on-premises, let's say. Workday is cloud, okay? CRM is also cloud. JSON is on-prem, and Azure SQL database is also cloud, right? So these two are the on-premises data source, and these three are the cloud data source. So let me do one thing. All right, so now these three are the on-premises data sources we have here, and these are the three cloud data sources. Fine. Now what we will do, we need to extract the data from all these data sources. Okay. Like for example, I have some requirement of a report or of a dashboard in which I need to extract the data from all these data sources. For example, some budget data I want to extract from Excel, and invoices data I want to extract from SAP. From JSON, I want to extract the currency conversion data. From Workday, I want to extract the employees like or the customers, like employees availability or like their working days or maybe some HR related data or any kind of. From CRM, I want to extract the services data, and from Azure SQL database, I want to extract the products list. Okay, so all these data sources basically will be used for developing the one company dashboard. Then what I'll do, I'll extract the data, the required data. Okay, always remember, extract the required data. Now you need to build a data set. Okay, so what you will do here, you will extract the data from all these data sources. Okay, and after extracting the data from all these data sources, you will build a data set. Okay, so it means this is one data set which holds the data from all these data sources. Okay, now this data set can be used for building a report, for developing a report. Now this data set you can use for developing one report or maybe two report. Okay, if the data is common for all for both the reports, then using this one data set you can use for building your two report, three report, or as much as you want. So what you will do, you will develop your one report, right? Report 1, report 2, and report 3. So what I'm going to do, using this data set, I'm going to build three reports. Fine, I can do that easily. In one report, I can extract the data from this data set, and the report 2 also I can use. It means one data set can be reused for developing the multiple reports. Okay, so now you build three reports here, and now what you want to build a company-wide dashboard. This dashboard would be accessible by your directors, by higher management, senior managers. Okay, so now here you can see that one dashboard can have the data from multiple reports. Means on one dashboard you can add the data, you can add the information from multiple reports, but one report can point to a single data set at one time. This report is pointing to data set, this one data set. Okay, let's say if you have one more data set here, so it will not be possible that in report 1 you can get the data from more than one data set. Okay, right? So in one report can have the data from one data set at a time, right? One data set can have the data from multiple data sources. Okay, how you can build a dashboard using the data sources, using the different data which you have in your data sources. Using the data sources, first what you will do, you will have to build a data set, or we can say a data model. Once you have this data model, then you can build one report or maybe multiple reports using it. And after that, in one dashboard, you can consolidate your visuals, your required information from the reports. Okay, and where you will do the data transformation, when you will bring the data from these data sources, that would be a extract operation. And during the extraction, you will have to load your data here into the data set. And during this time, you can do the data transformation. Once your data transformation is done, you can load that data in reports. And from the reports, you can add the visuals onto the dashboard. That how data flows from data source to dashboard. So what you can do here, let's say using the data set 2, you build another report, which is report 4, right? Then in the middle of these two things, one thing also now I'm going to add, that is what? Workspace. Okay. So now this data set 2 I'm using for developing the report 4. This is a very interesting thing. Okay, you need to understand it very clearly. So now what you are doing using the data set, you are building you developed your report 4. And now once you develop your report, you have to deploy it somewhere on the Power BI service, right? And in a workspace. So this is your Power BI service, PBI. PBI means Power BI. Okay, so Power BI service. In Power BI service, there's a workspace. So workspace is nothing but it's just a container. Okay, it's kind of a folder where you place all your reports, all your data sets, all your workbooks, everything. Okay, so in one workspace you place. But if your report 4 is also in the workspace 1, right? If you have placed your report, if you have placed a report 4 in the workspace 1, then you can use that here also. Means now you can create a dashboard using what? Using report 4 and report 2. But your 3 reports are in workspace 1 and this report is in workspace 2. If it is in these 3 are in workspace 1 and this is in workspace 2, then you cannot add report 4 onto the dashboard. Your dashboard is also in where? Is also in workspace 1. Then you can't add it. Okay. So if your report is in workspace 2, then you will have to create another dashboard, and that dashboard that would be your dashboard 2, and that will be part of the workspace 2. So basically what I want to explain here, if you can add the reports on a dashboard from the same workspace only. From different workspaces, you cannot add the content from your report on a dashboard. So workspace play a very important role. Whether do you want to load new columns automatically or you want to restrict to addition of the new columns in your data model. Okay, but it completely depends on the design of your data model. It's fully flexible. Whatever you want, that is possible. Files, SaaS provider data source could be like Facebook. If you want to get some data from Facebook, if you want to get some data from GitHub, from Jira, or from Google Analytics. Okay, so if you have such kind of data in such resource, in such data sources, then you can extract the data from here also. All right, next is queries. What are the queries? Queries are nothing but these are the terms like which in Power BI we call like these are some programming thing. Like for example, if you want to extract the data from SQL, then what you have to do, you have to write a SQL query. What you have to do, you will have to write a SQL query. Or if you want to extract the data from, let's say from Excel, then you do not need to write any query or anything. Directly you will pull all the data. Once you will pull all the data in Power BI, then you want to create some new column, you want to create some calculations, some measures. Okay, so for that purpose, what you need to do, you need to use DAX. What is DAX? DAX is a formula language which is very similar to your Excel formula language. Okay, DAX stands for data analysis expression. Okay, so this is the important thing, and I would like to say that this is the backbone of Power BI modeling and Power BI visualization. So this is the most critical thing and the most important thing when you develop any Power BI report or when you work in any Power BI project. So it will be like something like on which we will focus more. Okay. So using DAX, basically you can create some formulas, you can create new columns, new tables, right? Although all of you are like business users, so most of you are like business users, so that would be very easy for you to understand, because if you are familiar with Excel, then DAX is very easy. But for such kind of such people like who never worked on Excel, who don't know how to create a like VLOOKUP, how to create pivot, how pivot works in Excel. If they don't know such kind of basic things, then it might be a little bit difficult for them to understand the DAX, how DAX works. Okay, but DAX is like around 70% same as to the Excel formula language. Data transformation can have multiple options, multiple things which we can perform. When we say like we need to perform the data transformation, so it can consist like data cleaning. For example, if you have some duplicates, you have some null values, blank values in your data. So all that dirty data you need to detect and you need to handle, whether you want to remove, whether you want to filter, or whether you want to replace that with any other value. So that depends on your data and on your requirement. Next, we do the formatting. Formatting means like, for example, if you want to concatenate the columns, you want to sort your data, you want to like replace the values. Okay, so all these things you can do in formatting step. The next you use the key lookups. Key lookup is basically something like which you use for building the star schema. Star schema means one fact table and other are dimension table. As of now, you can understand like fact table is your transactional data and other tables, dimension tables are your master tables, master data like customer, state, city, country, product categories. All these are the dimension tables. Okay. And let's say invoices, ledger entries, all these tables are your fact tables. Okay. So if you want to do a join between your tables, for example, you want to look up in another table and based on that you want to extract some data from another table, all these things you can do in data transformation step. Next, we can do aggregation also. What is aggregation? Let's say you have a transactional level of data, but in your report, you do not want to show transactional level, like line level data. You want to show the aggregated data only, right? For example, you want to show that the total invoice amount for customers. Okay. So now you are not going to, for example, for one customer, let's say there are 300 invoices. So you are not going to show 300 lines for for one customer. What you want? What is the sum of those 300 invoices? That only you want to show. Okay. So it means when you want to create such kind of reporting where you want to show the aggregated data only, then aggregation also you can do. And aggregation allows you for the faster data refresh and a shorter waiter time. It means when you are not going to pull line level data, it means you are reducing the wait time and you are increasing the performance of your report and your visuals. Okay. Once you've done your data transformation, okay, for example, you loaded some data from different sources, you did data transformations, everything you did, what were required for your reporting purpose, then you need to do the visualization. Means now our data modeling is ready, data model is done. Now let's start for visualization. It means start for the report development. Visualization. Visualization is very important thing. Why? Because the person who is going to view your report or who is going to interact with your report, he is not aware that what kind of data modeling you did in the behind the scenes or what data modeler is running behind the scene. He'll simply focus on the visualization. If your visualization is neat and clean, if your visualization is like very attractive, then the person who is viewing your report will show some interest in your report and will start using the report. Otherwise, I saw many examples where we were not able to visualize the data nicely and that report was not any useful. Okay? So visualization is also very critical part of the reporting. Why? Because this is the final presentation layer. If you are not able to present your data properly, nicely, then everything is waste. Whether you have made your data model very perfect, if you cannot visualize it, if business user or the person who is viewing your report, if that person cannot understand that report, then it's useless. Okay. So it means
each phase is very important. It doesn't mean like data modeling is only the thing which you need to do. No, data visualization is more important than the data modeling. Why? Because business user, the end user, is going to interact with your visualization, is not going to see your data modeling. He is not going to see what kind of expression you have written, what kind of relationship, what kind of data transformation you have done behind the scenes. We'll focus only on the visualization. Okay, so that's why visualization is also a very important thing. When we say visualizations, in visualization we can have multiple type of visuals, right? So visualizations are nothing but like bar charts, column charts, line charts, area charts, pie charts, donut charts. There are different visuals we have in Power BI, right? So all these are basically we use for developing the reports in Power BI. There are cards, multi-row cards, KPIs, right? So there is a long list. Maps also you can use, like bubble map, filled map, shape map. All these you can use for developing your reports within Power BI. Now, all these things, like what we can do. Now let's see important thing, that how we download and install the Power BI desktop. Although all of you have already installed it, but now let me show you how you can do it from yourself also if you want. Power BI download, Google it. Here you will see downloads option. You can just go here, and here you will see advanced download option. All right, installation process of any component of Power BI is very easy, very straightforward. It's not any kind of like rocket science, like there is a lot of configuration are required. It's simply installation. Simply next you have to click. Select this. If your machine is 64-bit, then select this one. If your machine is like 32-bit operating system, then select this one. Okay, then click on next. Once you click next, Power BI desktop will be downloaded in your system. Once it's downloaded, then you have to start the installation process. An installation process is very easy. Simply double click on the setup file, but for installation you must have the admin rights. Okay, so once you click on installation file, simply follow the instructions, next and finish. That's it. Once installation is done, now you need to start Power BI desktop. How? Simply you can search here Power BI desktop as we, and click on it, or you can press enter. So I just started the Power BI desktop, which will take few seconds to open up. Okay, so here you can see Power BI desktop now has been started. This is just a welcome window. You can close it, and now you can see this Power BI desktop. Okay, in Power BI desktop, first of all, you need to always make sure that you are working the latest, you are using the latest Power BI desktop. How to check it? Go to help, about, and here you can see this is the latest one. Okay,
Power BI desktop. Now let's see that when you want to start working with Power BI, right? So few things which you need to like always make sure before working on any project, before working on any report. The first thing is always, it is recommended that always you should to work on latest Power BI desktop. Why? Because there are many functionalities, many features which are available in latest Power BI desktop only. Okay, how to check that? Just go to help and about, and here you can make sure that whether you are using the latest version or not. Okay, it's March 2020. So every month, generally Microsoft release new update. The point is like how you will ensure that the new version is available or not, right? So here you will be able to see the new version available message here. Another or otherwise, what you can do, you can just do one thing. You can just go to the Power BI blog, right? So here is Microsoft Power BI blog, which is like I would recommend you that you guys should visit this blog like once in a week at least, because if you want to be updated with all the Power BI and everything, right? What are the release? What are the updates, right? So here you can see that Power BI updates. Okay. So month wise, you can see here like May 2020, April 2020, March 2020, right? So every month, what Microsoft is doing.
Just a quick info, guys. Test your knowledge of Power BI by answering this question. In which of the following context style is Power BI DAX? A. Row context. B. Filter context. C. Both row and filter context. Comment your answer in the comment section below. Subscribe to Intellipaat to know the right answer. Now, let's continue with the session.
For Power BI, what is the roadmap of Power BI? Everything you can get from here. Okay. So at least once in a week you can visit it. Okay, and in case if there is any update, so how you will get to know, like for example in March 2020. Okay, so Microsoft released the Power BI desktop version. So in March 2020, you will see, looks like, so you will see a blog like this, Power BI Desktop March 2020 feature summary, right? So when Microsoft will release a new update for May, so you will see in the May month, you will see Power BI Desktop May 2020 feature summary, okay? So you need to simply click on this blog. Here you will see that what are all those features which Microsoft released with the new update, okay? So these are all the new features, okay? So you can see a pretty long list, right? You can see that all these features and functionalities have been released into the new version of Power BI. If you want to download the latest Power BI Desktop, then just simply click here and you will be able to download and install it. Now, the second thing is when you want to work with Power BI Desktop, there are some settings which you need to enable. When Microsoft release new version of Power BI Desktop, then most of the features are released in a preview feature as a preview feature. Preview feature is nothing but it's just like a beta version, initial release. Okay, you can say beta or initial release. Okay, so in order to use these preview features, you need to first enable these preview features in Power BI Desktop. Okay, how you will enable it? You need to go in File, then go to Options and Settings, then go to Options. Here you will see some one preview features tab. Click on it. So you just need to make sure that all these preview features are enabled, right? So you have to select, for example, if your Power BI Desktop, these two are not selected, so you have to select, you have to check mark all these preview features. Okay, only then you will be able to use these initial new features of Power BI. Okay, so select all of them and click OK and restart your Power BI Desktop. Apart from that, there are some other settings which you can see here under this settings window, right? So for example, what happens actually once you start working with Power BI, okay? So Power BI Desktop is start storing some data or some temporary file in its cache memory, okay? So time to time, like once, depending on the usage, okay? But generally like once in a month at least, you should clear the cache by just coming here. Come here, go to data load, and here you can see clear cache, right? So just clear it. So what will happen by this? It will clear all the temporary files, all the like some raw data from the cache memory. Okay. So you just need to make sure like you are cleaning it. Otherwise, what will happen? The cache size will continuously going to be increasing and increasing and increasing, and it will be like making your Power BI Desktop bit slow, and it will occupy much space in your machine. Okay. So this is just like once in a month. If you do, then it's good enough. But if your usage is not too much, then once in a quarter also you can do that. Okay. So it's not very frequent activity. That is just one thing. Another thing is like there are so many settings here, right? So I'll be explaining you time to time that if you want to do something like what setting we need to change here. Okay. So basically whatever the setting you want to you want to change for your product for Power BI Desktop, then this is the place where you need to come. Okay. Once again, I'm telling you that how to come here. Go to File, Options and Settings. Next, I was saying most of the things basically we can control from that settings window. Okay. But as of now, only this thing you need to just make sure that all the preview features are enabled or not. Now let's move to the data sources point. So the point is, when you want to work with Power BI, what thing you need? What is that thing? What you need? We need the data. Okay. Before creating any report, any data model, what we need the data. Okay. And in Power BI, it's very easy, very straightforward to get the data Power BI from any data source. How? Simply go to this Get Data button. You can see here Get Data, right? And this Get Data is very similar, right? Almost all the Power BI. See, Power BI is just a luxurious version of Excel. What's my point? Power BI is just a luxurious version of Excel and other components. So if you go in Excel, if you go to the data, here you can see Get Data option. And if you go here, you see Get Data. Even the icon, if you see, even the icon you see, that is also same. Why? Because most of the features, most of the things are coming from the Excel, and that's the reason like why Power BI is like gaining much popularity in the market within just a few years in comparison to other BI tools. Because most of the business users, most of the people are like are easily able to relate it with the Excel. Okay, and if they can relate it with Excel, then it means it is very easy for them to learn it, to understand it. That's why Power BI is much user friendly in comparison to other BI products. So when I want to get the data from any data source, let's say, let's begin with Excel. So you need to click here. Here you will see some common data sources. Okay. So this is the default list from Microsoft. You cannot change it. Okay. You cannot change this default list. But if you want to see the complete list of data sources, right, then what we need to do, we need to click here on more button, right? Or instead of clicking in on this arrow, right, you can directly click on this logo, on this icon, right? If I click on this arrow button, then it will show me a drop down list here and I'll see some data sources here. If I want to see the complete list, then I can click on more button. Once I click on more button, I'll see a window like this. Here I can see all the data sources. Okay. But most of the buttons like having two actions. One is if I click on this arrow, it means this button is having two actions. If I click here on this arrow, it will give me a list. Otherwise, if I directly click on the icon, it will open the complete list directly. I have clicked like this. All right. So you just see here few buttons, like where you see this arrow. Here you have the arrow. It means there is another option under this arrow, right? There's like this into this transform data. If I click on it, here you see there are other options also. Okay. So never thought like it is transform data only. No. Under this button, there are some other actions also which you can perform, which you can use. And how to know them, how to know that under which button it is, by just this arrow button, you can identify, oh, under this, I can see some more options, some more actions, okay? Like new visual. So if I click on this new visual, then what will happen? A new visual will be added here. I clicked, a new visual has been added here, okay? So it means there is not any other action under this button, okay, behind this button. Why? Because there is not any arrow button, okay? So you can see a small arrow here, more visual. So, okay, so you can click here and you can see, oh, there are two options under this. So always make sure it, because many times what I felt like many people just are trying to find one feature, one button, and they are not able to find it. Why? Because actually that feature may be under any other feature here like this, or maybe like this. Or if by default, if you want to open the main button, right, you see here transform data, right? If you want to open the transform data directly, then you can click on this icon. Okay? If you want to see the complete list of actions, then you have to click on this arrow button. You got my point? Okay, so now let's open the data sources. So your data sources are available here in this list. Here you can see that these are categorized in different categories like file, databases, Power Platform data source, Azure data source, right? So in this way, these are like categorized in different. And Microsoft is continuously increasing this list. Currently, we have like around 100 data sources from where you can extract the data in Power BI. So for example, if you want to search any data source, let's say Excel, then you can use this search button. And here you choose this Excel, click on connect, right? So it's very straightforward. And you then go to your data source. So let me just get any Excel. All right, so here I got this Excel file. Once you got the Excel file, then you can click on open button. Okay. If you are going to load the Excel file from your machine, from your local machine, then it's straightforward. But if you want to get the Excel file, let's say your Excel file is placed on some other network drive, okay, then no problem. If you have the access, the read access of that network drive, of that shared drive, then you can just simply pass that path here and you can extract the data from there also. Click on open. All right, so here you will be able to see this, right? So these are three sheets, right? These are three sheets in that Excel file. So that's why we are able to see these three here. Okay. So now what is this? This is the navigator window. You can see here, this is navigator window. We need to understand this window, the purpose of this window. It's not just like a window. Actually, what is it? When you load the data on this navigator window, it means your connection has been successfully established with your data source. One thing. Okay. The second thing is when you load the data and you can see this data into the navigator window, it means right now data has been loaded in your RAM, in your memory. Okay. When you select any table, let's say I select orders table, and you can see here, this is the preview, right? So this is the preview of the data. So it means where the data is right now. Right now the data is in RAM. That's why it is recommended to use
at least 8 GB of RAM. It is just recommended, but the minimum requirement is 4 GB. So if you are working on large data set and you do not have like a good amount of RAM, then you may face some lagging or some data loading issues. Okay. So once you can see this data here, right? So it means this data is right now into the memory. The data right now is not in your hard disk, or physically it's not available in the powerBI desktop. If I minimize it, and here you see that nothing is available in the powerBI desktop. The data you see here in this window right now, the data is in memory. Okay, so that's why it has been said that when you load the data, Power BI can hold your data in the memory. Okay, and you can transform, you can do the data modeling when the data is in memory. That's why the data transformation is very fast. Okay, it means you can hold your data for a while within the RAM. Okay. Okay, so now here you select your tables. Let's say I have selected 2 tables. Okay, now I want to load this data in Power BI desktop or in query editor. There are 2 things. One you can see here load button, and one you can see transform data, right? What are the difference between them? So when you load some data, when you extract some data, then sometimes your data might be required for some data transformation, or sometime like it is already transformed, it is already cleared. Straightforward, now you need to do the visualization for it. Okay, let's say if your data is not clean, you need to do some data transformation in it. Then you have to click on this transform data button. Once you will click on this transform data button, it will open your data into the another window. Let's click on it. Right, so now you can see the data has been loaded in another window. That is Power Query Editor. What is this? Power Query Editor. So this Power Query Editor is basically a very powerful tool, and we can say it's a ETL place where you can perform all your data transformation. There are a lot of options, right, under different tabs. So we are not going in much detail in this session in all these operations. So first we need to understand that once you have the data here, then what you can do with the data and what you cannot do with the data. So the one thing which you cannot do, which you cannot expect, the write back operation is not performed, right? It's not valid. What is write back means? Like I extracted this data from Excel. I extracted this data from the Excel, and if I remove this row ID column from here, so now what happened? Row ID column has been removed, has been deleted from the Power BI data model. So it doesn't mean like it also has been deleted, it also has been removed from the Excel. No. So whatever the option of like operation you will do here, addition, deletion of any column, data filtration, there will not be any write back impact on your source data or on your Excel. Okay, so don't confuse with it. Like if you are removing some data, then it might get some impact on your source data also. Okay, so it's never possible. Even if you want to do that, that is also not possible. Okay, so write back is not possible. Only you can extract the data, you can read the data only. That's it. Got it? So now you have these 2 tables here. So you can see the queries here. Queries is written here. So don't be confused with it. Queries is nothing but just table. Okay. In terms of Power BI, we call it queries. We call tables as queries. Okay. So there are 2 queries, or I can say 2 tables, right? Now this is a very small data set, right? You may have like here 10, 20 or 50 tables also. Now when you load this data, when you like start data transformation on this data, you have to use different buttons and different things here, okay, based on your requirement. Once you do it, once you complete all your data transformation, right, then what you have to do, you have to load this data in Power BI desktop. Means data is not available right now in your hard disk, in your Power BI desktop. You can see here there's nothing in Power BI desktop right now. So it means when you load the data in Power Query Editor, when you load the data in Power Query Editor, it means the data again will be loaded in the memory. Okay, data again will be loaded in the memory, and whatever the data transformation you will do, that will be happening inside the with the data when it is in the RAM. That's why it is in memory data transformation. Okay, so once you have done all your data transformations here, okay, it means right now the data is in memory. Now I need to load this data in Power BI desktop. So how to load that? For loading that, I can simply click on this button, close and apply. So what it will do, it will close this Power Query editor and it will load the data in Power BI desktop. It will apply all the changes, all the data transformation changes, and it will load the data in Power BI desktop here. Okay, so let's click on this, close and apply. As of now, I'm not going to show any data transformation operation. Okay, first we need to understand that how it works. Okay, then we will come to here on this query editor tab again. So let's close and apply this button. Now what will happen? Data will start loading in Power BI desktop. Till now, data was in memory. Based on the data size, based on the network, based on the data source, it may take some time. Okay. All right. So now you can see the data has been loaded in Power BI desktop. So now what happened with the data which was in the memory? That memory now has been cleaned up. Data has been removed from the memory now because now we have loaded the data in physical memory into the in your hard disk in Power BI desktop. Okay, it's clear. So we need to understand like when data is in physical memory and when data is in temp memory, when data is in RAM and when data is in hard disk. All right. So now data has been loaded in Power BI desktop and we have the data here. If you want to see the tabular preview of this data, then you can see here there are three tabs, right? Report tab, data tab, and model tab. You need to go here into the data tab. You can see the data of the selected table, right? If I select returns table, here you can see returns table data. So this was the way, like once you have the data here in Power BI desktop, then rest of the thing is like you need to work with relationships, you need to work with formulas, need to work with creating calculated columns, measures, values, right? But the thing is, first you need to load the data. Okay. After that, let me just show you here. What are the steps you need to perform? First, extract the data from where? Data source. After that, data transformation, where? Under query editor. After that, you have to load the data in Power BI desktop. Once you load the data in Power BI desktop, then you have to create the relationships, create and manage. After that, you need to create columns, tables, or measures based on requirement. It's not mandatory, based on requirement using DAX. After that, again, you need to manage your relationships if required. So this is the step like which it depends on you, like where you want to do it. Before the DAX, you can do it, or like after DAX also you can do it, right? So it's up to you. All right. Next is once you are done with your data transformation using the DAX, then data visualization. Data visualization, or I can say reports development. Once report development is done, then you need to publish, or we can say deploy on Power BI service. Once it is in the Power BI service, then you can perform a lot of things like you can do sharing, dashboard development, scheduling, data refresh, right? There are multiple things. And somewhere here, if required in your report, then you have to implement the data security also. That you would do here after doing this data visualization. Here you have to implement RLS, right? Data security. Okay, so these are the high level steps, like basically the process flow, how you work, first what you do, then what you do, then what to do, then what to do. Okay, so just a high level. All right, so now, so we saw that how to extract the data from Excel. Now let's suppose if I want to extract the data from any OData link. What is OData? OData is nothing, it's a web service link or it's a web link. Let's suppose I have one database. Okay, that database I have published onto the internet. Okay, and I have exposed one web service so that other people can leverage that database for their analysis, for their development, or for whatever. Okay, so how to get the data from OData service? Straightforward again. I'm just going to save this file. I'm going to open a new file. Okay, so let's save this. This is Excel data. Once I save this,
you have to check that file. It is appearing here. Okay. And what is the extension of this file? .pbix. So what is this .pbix? It's nothing but it's an extension, file extension of Power BI desktop files. Now you can share this file with other people also, or if you want, you can publish it also. Okay. So in this file, you can see the size of this file is 2147 KB. Why that much size? Because this file is holding this file is storing your data, your Excel data. That's why you can see here the size. And when it's Power BI stores the data, then it uses some compression methods. Okay, so it doesn't mean like if your data is in like it's 100 MB, so the Power BI desktop file, this PBX file will also be 100 MB. No. Why? Because it will compress the data as much as possible, and after that you will be able to see like around 5 to 10 MB file only. All right, so now let's start the Power BI desktop again, because now we are going to see how we can extract data from any OData. Meanwhile, let me find out a sample OData link for you. There is one sample database, Northwind sample database, or already I have this one. I'm just showing you how you can find also data link. All right, so you can get this OData link from somewhere from any URL, from any website. Okay. Although it is difficult to find any sample OData link. Anyways, I'm already having, so I'm just using that one.
Just a quick info, guys. Intellipaat provides Power BI online certification training in partnership with Microsoft, mentored by industry experts. The course link is given in the description below. Now, let's continue with the session.
Okay, so I have one OData link. If I open this into the browser, then let's see how it looks like. So this is a Northwind sample database. Okay, and you can see that the data is appearing here. So now let's get this data in Power BI. So whenever you want any data in Power BI, you need to go and get data. Go here directly. I can see OData feed here. Okay, so I click on it. Here I have to provide this URL, right? You can see there's one basic and one advanced button, right? So if I click on advanced, it means if you have multiple web service links, and at the same time, if you want to extract the data from multiple links in Power BI, then you can add that link. Let's say I have another link, I can post it here. If I have another link, I can add it here. Okay, so it means you can add multiple links based on your requirement. Okay, now click on OK. As this is a public web service link, so I can connect to it anonymously. No password, user ID are required. Okay, so you can see I have connected and I can see the data where in navigator window. It means once you can see the data in navigator window, now you are ready to go for data transformation. So what you need to do, you need to select some tables here. For example, I'm going to use order details, customers, orders, products, and one more is category table.
Just a quick info, guys. Test your knowledge of Power BI by answering this question. How would you add a visual to a dashboard in Power BI? A. Embed. B. Snap. C. Stick. D. Reorder. Comment your answer in the comment section below. Subscribe to Intellipaat to know the right answer. Now, let's continue with the session.
Fine, so I have selected these tables. Now you can see in this scenario, you can see there are like multiple tables. Okay, so if you want to search any particular table, then you can just go here and you can search, for example, region table. Select it. Now, if you want to see that how many tables you have selected, which you are going to load, for that you want to see the list of selected tables only. Right now it is showing complete list. I want to see a list of selected tables. Go to this options and click on only selected items. It will give you a list of only the selected items. Now it's up to me. Like if this data is transformed already, then if I want, I can directly load it in Power BI desktop. But as a general practice, we should always load this data in query editor just to have a look that whether the data is cleaned or not, or if any data transformation is required. Okay, so let's click on this transform data. When I click on the transform data, data has been loaded in Power Query Editor. Okay, and where is this data right now? This data is in RAM, is in the RAM memory. You see in Power BI Desktop, nothing is appearing. Okay, it means right now this data has been loaded in your RAM. Fine. Now here you can do your data transformation, data modeling, like you can remove some columns, you can add some columns, you can do some joins, appends, whatever you want. You can do group by, pivot, unpivot, a lot of operations you can perform here. And these operations basically we call data transformation operations. Okay, so this is the way like how we extract the data from any OData link, right? Now let's load this data in Power BI Desktop. So for that we have this straightforward option. Just click on close and apply, and it will start loading the data in Power BI Desktop. Right, so you can see that from all these tables, data is now loading. It is creating connection, and depending on the size of the data, the network speed, it may take some time. All right, okay. Power BI Desktop. Now let's see that when you want to start working with Power BI, right? So few things which you need to like always make sure before working on any project, before working on any report. The first thing is always it is recommended that always you should to work on latest Power BI Desktop. Why? Because there are many functionalities, many features which are available in latest Power BI Desktop only. Okay, and if you want to use the new things, new features in Power BI, then you have to use the latest version. Okay, how to check that? Just go to help and about, and here you can make sure that whether you are using the latest version or not. Okay, it's March 2020. So every month, generally Microsoft release new update, but for April, Microsoft did not release. The point is like how you will ensure that the new version is available or not, right? So here you will be able to see the new version available message here. Another or otherwise, what you can do, you can just do one thing. You can just go to the Power BI blog, right? So here is Microsoft Power BI blog, which is like I would recommend you that you guys should visit this blog like once in a week at least, because if you want to be updated with all the Power BI and everything, right? What are the release, what are the updates, right? So here you can see that Power BI updates, okay? So month wise, you can see here like May 2020, April 2020, March 2020, right? So every month what Microsoft is doing within Power BI or like for Power BI, what is the roadmap of Power BI, everything you can get from here, okay? So at least once in a week you can visit it, okay? And in case if there is any update, so how you will get to know, like for example, in March 2020, okay? So Microsoft released the Power BI desktop version. So in March 2020, you will see how it looks like. So you will see a blog like this, Power BI Desktop March 2020 feature summary, right? So when Microsoft will release a new update for May, so you will see in the May month, you will see Power BI Desktop May 2020 feature summary, okay? So you need to simply click on this blog, and here you will see that what are all those features which Microsoft released with the new update, okay? So these are all the new features, okay? So you can see a pretty long list, right? You can see that all these features and functionalities have been released into the new version of Power BI. If you want to download the latest Power BI Desktop, then just simply click here and you will be able to download and install it. Okay. Now, the second thing is when you want to work with Power BI Desktop, there are some settings which you need to enable. When Microsoft release new version of Power BI Desktop, then most of the features are released in a preview feature as a preview feature. Preview feature is nothing but it's just like a beta version, initial release. Okay, you can say beta or initial release. Okay, so in order to use these preview features, you need to first enable these preview features in Power BI Desktop. Okay, how you will enable it? You need to go in File, then go to Options and Settings, then go to Options. Here you will see some one preview features tab. Click on it. So you just need to make sure that all these preview features are enabled, right? So you have to select, for example, if your Power BI Desktop, these two are not selected, so you have to select, you have to check mark all these preview features. Okay, only then you will be able to use these initial new features of Power BI. Okay, so select all of them and click OK and restart your Power BI Desktop. Okay. Apart from that, there are some other settings which you can see here. under this settings window, right? So for example, what happens actually once you start working with Power BI, okay? So Power BI desktop is start storing some data or some temporary file in its cache memory, okay? So time to time, like once, depending on the usage, okay? But generally like once in a month at least, you should clear the cache by just coming here. Come here, go to data load, and here you can see clear cache, right? So just clear it. So what will happen by this? It will clear all the temporary files, all the like some raw data from the cache memory. Okay, so you just need to make sure like you are cleaning it. Otherwise, what will happen? The cache size will continuously going to be increasing and increasing and increasing, and it will be like making your Power BI desktop bit slow, and it will occupy much space in your machine. Okay, so this is just like once in a month. If you do, then it's good enough. But if your usage is not too much, then once in a quarter also you can do that. Okay, so it's not very frequent activity. That is just one thing. Another thing is like there are so many settings here, right? So I'll be explaining you time to time that if you want to do something, like what setting we need to change here. Okay, so basically whatever the setting you want to you want to change for your product for Power BI desktop, then this is the place where you need to come. Okay, once again I'm telling you that how to come here. Go to file, options and settings. Next, I was saying most of the things basically we can control from that settings window. Okay, but in as of now, only this thing you need to just make sure that all the preview features are enabled or not. Now let's move to the data sources point. So the point is, when you want to work with Power BI, what thing you need? What is that thing? What you need? We need the data. Okay. Before creating any report, any data model, what we need the data. Okay. And in Power BI, it's very easy, very straightforward to get the data Power BI from any data source. How? Simply go to this get data button. You can see here get data, right? And this get data is very similar, right? Almost all the Power BI. See, Power BI is just a luxurious version of Excel. What's my point? Power BI is just a luxurious version of Excel and other components. So if you go in Excel, if you go to the data, here you can see get data option. All right. And if you go here, you see get data. Even the icon, if you see, even the icon you see, that is also same. Why? Because most of the features, most of the things are coming from the Excel, and that's the reason like why Power BI is like gaining much popularity in the market within just a few years in comparison to other BI tools. Because most of the business users, most of the people are like are easily able to relate it with the Excel. Okay, and if they can relate it with Excel, then it means it is very easy for them to learn it, to understand it. That's why Power BI is much user friendly in comparison to other BI products. So when I want to get the data from any data source, let's begin with Excel. So you need to click here. Here you will see some common data sources. Okay, so this is the default list from Microsoft. You cannot change it. Okay, you cannot change this default list. But if you want to see the complete list of data sources, right, then what we need to do, we need to click here on more button, right? Or instead of clicking in on this arrow, right, you can directly click on this logo, on this icon, right? If I click on this arrow button, then it will show me a drop down list here, and I'll see some data sources here. If I want to see the complete list, then I can click on more button. Once I click on more button, I'll see a window like this. Here I can see all the data sources. Okay, but most of the buttons like having two actions. One is if I click on this arrow, it means this button is having two actions. If I click here on this arrow, it will give me a list. Otherwise, if I directly click on the icon, it will open the complete list directly. I have clicked like this. All right, so you just see here few buttons, like where you see this arrow. Here you have the arrow. It means there is another option under this arrow, right? There's like this into this transform data. If I click on it, here you see there are other options also. Okay, so never thought like it is transform data only. No, under this button there are some other actions also which you can perform, which you can use. And how to know them, how to know that under which button it is? By just this arrow button you can identify, oh, under this I can see some more options, some more actions. Okay, like new visual. So if I click on this new visual, then what will happen? A new visual will be added here. I clicked, a new visual has been added here. Okay, so it means there is not any other action under this button. Okay, behind this button. Why? Because there is not any arrow button. Okay, you can see a small arrow here, more visual. So okay, so you can click here and you can see, oh, there are two options under this. So always make sure it, because many times what I felt like many people just are trying to find one feature, one button, and they are not able to find it. Why? Because actually that feature may be under any other feature here like this, or maybe like this. Or if by default, if you want to open the main button, right? You see here transform data, right? If you want to open the transform data directly, then you can click on this icon. Okay. If you want to see the complete list of actions, then you have to click on this arrow button. You got my point? Okay, so now let's open the data sources. So your data sources are available here in this list. Here you can see that these are categorized in different categories like file, databases, Power Platform data source is your data source, right? So in this way, these are like categorized in different. And Microsoft is continuously increasing this list. Currently, we have like around 100 data sources from where you can extract the data in Power BI. So for example, if you want to search any data source, let's say Excel, then you can use this search button. And here you choose this Excel, click on connect, right? So it's very straightforward. And you then go to your data source. So let me just get any Excel. All right, so here I got this Excel file. Once you got the Excel file, then you can click on open button. Okay. If you are going to load the Excel file from your machine, from your local machine, then it's straightforward. But if you want to get the Excel file, let's say your Excel file is placed on some other network drive. Okay, then no problem. If you have the access, the read access of that network drive, of that shared drive, then you can just simply pass that path here and you can extract the data from there also. Click on open. All right, so here you will be able to see these tables, right? So these are three sheets, right? These are three sheets in that Excel file. So that's why we are able to see these three here. Okay. So now what is this? This is the navigator window. You can see here, this is navigator window. So we need to understand this window, the purpose of this window. It's not just like a window. Actually, what is it? When you load the data on this navigator window, it means your connection has been successfully established with your data source. One thing. Okay. The second thing is when you load the data and you can see this data into the navigator window, it means right now data has been loaded in your RAM, in your memory. Okay. When you select any table, let's say I select orders table, and you can see here, this is the preview, right? So this is the preview of the data. So it means where the data is right now. Right now the data is in RAM. That's why it is recommended to use at least 8 GB of RAM. It is just recommended, but the minimum requirement is 4 GB. So if you are working on large data set and you do not have like a good amount of RAM, then you may face some lagging or some data loading issues. Okay. So once you can see this data here, right? So it means this data is right now into the memory. The data right now is not in your hard disk, or physically it's not available in the Power BI desktop. If I minimize it, and here you see that nothing is available in the Power BI desktop. The data you see here in this window right now, the data is in memory. Okay, so that's why it has been said that when you load the data, Power BI can hold your data in the memory. Okay, and you can transform, you can do the data modeling when the data is in memory. That's why the data transformation is very fast. Okay, it means you can hold your data for a while within the RAM. Okay. Okay, so now here you select your tables. Let's say I have selected 2 tables. Okay, now I want to load this data in Power BI desktop or in query editor. There are 2 things. One you can see here load button, and one you can see transform data, right? What are the difference between them? So when you load some data, when you extract some data, then sometimes your data might be required for some data transformation, or sometime like it is already transformed, it is already cleared. Straightforward, now you need to do the visualization for it. Okay, let's say if your data is not clean, you need to do some data transformation in it, then you have to click on this transform data button. Once you will click on this transform data button, it will open your data into the another window. Let's click on it. Right. So now you can see the data has been loaded in another window. That is Power Query Editor. What is this? Power Query Editor. So this Power Query Editor is basically a very powerful tool, and we can say it's a ETL place where you can perform all your data transformation. So first we need to understand that once you have the data here, then what you can do with the data and what you cannot do with the data. So the one thing which you cannot do, which you cannot expect, the write back operation is not performed, right? It's not valid. What does write back means? Like I extracted this data from Excel. I extracted this data from the Excel, and if I remove this row ID column from here like this, okay, so now what happened? Row ID column has been removed, has been deleted from the Power BI data model. So it doesn't mean like it also has been deleted, it also has been removed from the Excel. No. So whatever the option of like operation you will do here, addition, deletion of any column, data filtration, there will not be any write back impact on your source data or on your Excel. Okay, so don't confuse with it. Like if you are removing some data, then it might get some impact on your source data also. Okay, so it's never possible. Even if you want to do that, that is also not possible. Okay, so write back is not possible. Only you can extract the data, you can read the data only. That's it. Got it? So now you have these two tables here. So you can see the queries here. Queries is written here. So don't be confused with it. Queries is nothing but just table. Okay. In terms of Power BI, we call it queries. We call tables as queries. Okay. So there are two queries, or I can say two tables, right? Now this is a very small data set, right? You may have like here 10, 20 or 50 tables also. Now when you load this data, when you like start data transformation on this data, you have to use different buttons and different things here, okay, based on your requirement. Once you do it, once you complete all your data transformation, right, then what you have to do, you have to load this data in Power BI desktop. Means data is not available right now in your hard disk, in your Power BI desktop. You can see here there's nothing in Power BI desktop right now. So it means when you load the data in Power Query Editor, when you load the data in Power Query Editor, it means the data again will be loaded in the memory. Okay, data again will be loaded in the memory, and whatever the data transformation you will do, that will be happening inside the with the data when it is in the RAM. That's why it is in memory data transformation. Okay. All right. So once you have done all your data transformations here. Okay. It means right now the data is in memory. Now I need to load this data in Power BI desktop. So how to load that? For loading that, I can simply click on this button, close and apply. So what it will do, it will close this Power Query Editor and it will load the data in Power BI desktop. It will apply all the changes, all the data transformation changes, and it will load the data in Power BI desktop here. Okay, so let's click on this, close and apply. As of now, I'm not going to show any data transformation operation. Okay, first we need to understand that how it works. Okay, then we will come to here on this query editor tab again. So let's close and apply this button. Now what will happen? Data will start loading in Power BI desktop. Till now, data was in memory. Based on the data size, based on the network, based on the data source, it may take some time. Okay. All right, so now you can see the data has been loaded in Power BI desktop. So now what happened with the data which was in the memory? That memory now has been cleaned up. Data has been removed from the memory now, because now we have loaded the data in physical memory into in your hard disk in Power BI desktop. Okay, it's clear. So we need to understand like when data is in physical memory and when data is in temp memory, when data is in RAM and when data is in hard disk. All right, so now data has been loaded in Power BI desktop and we have the data here. If you want to see the tabular preview of this data, then you can see here there are three tabs, right? Report tab, data tab, and model tab. You need to go here into the data tab and you can see the data of the selected table, right? If I select returns table, here you can see returns table data. So this was the way, like once you have the data here in Power BI desktop, then rest of the thing is like you need to work with relationships, you need to work with formulas, need to work with creating calculated columns, measures, values, right? But the thing is, first you need to load the data. Okay. After that, let me just show you here. What are the steps you need to perform? First, extract the data from where? Data source. After that, data transformation, where? Under query editor. After that, you have to load the data in Power BI desktop. Once you load the data in Power BI desktop, then you have to create the relationships, create and manage. After that, you need to create columns, tables, or measures based on requirement. It's not mandatory, based on requirement using DAX. After that, again, you need to manage your relationships if required. So this is the step like which it depends on you, like where you want to do it. Before the DAX, you can do it, or like after DAX also you can do it, right? So it's up to you. All right. Next is, once you are done with your data transformation using the DAX, then data visualization. Data visualization, or I can say reports development. Once report development is done, then you need to publish, or we can say deploy on Power BI service. Once it is in the Power BI service, then you can perform a lot of things, like you can do sharing, dashboard development, scheduling, data refresh, right? There are multiple things. And somewhere here, if required in your report, then you have to implement the data security also. That you would do here. After doing this data visualization, here you have to implement RLS, right? Data security. Okay, so these are the high level steps, like basically the process flow, how you work, first what you do, then what you do, then what to do, then what to do. Okay, so just a high level. All right, so now, so we saw that how to extract the data from Excel. Now let's suppose if I want to extract the data from any OData link. What is OData? OData is nothing, it's a web service link, or it's a web link. Let's suppose I have one database. Okay, that database I have published onto the internet. Okay, and I have exposed one web service so that other people can leverage that database for their analysis, for their development, or for whatever. Okay, so how to get the data from OData service? Straightforward again. I'm just going to save this file. I'm going to open a new file. Okay, so let's save this. This is Excel data. Once I save this, you have to check that file. It is appearing here. Okay, and what is the extension of this file? .pbix. So what is this .pbix? It's nothing but it's an extension, file extension of Power BI desktop files. Now you can share this file with other people also, or if you want, you can publish it also. Okay, so in this file, you can see the size of this file is 2147 KB. Why that much size? Because this file is holding this file is storing your data, your Excel data. That's why you can see here the size. And when it's Power BI stores the data, then it uses some compression methods. Okay, so it doesn't mean like if your data is in like it's 100 MB, so the Power BI desktop file, this PBX file, will also be 100 MB. No. Why? Because it will compress the data as much as possible, and after that you will be able to see like around 5 to 10 MB file only. All right, so now let's start the Power BI desktop again, because now we are going to see how we can extract data from any OData. Meanwhile, let me find out a sample OData link for you. There is one sample database, Northwind sample database, or already I have this one. I'm just showing you how you can find also. All right, so you can get this OData link from somewhere from any URL, from any website. Okay, although it is difficult to find any sample OData link. Anyways, I'm already having, so I'm just using that one. Okay, so I have one OData link. If I open this into the browser, then let's see how it looks like. So this is a Northwind sample database. Okay, and You can see that the data is appearing here. So now let's get this data in Power BI. So whenever you want any data in Power BI, you need to go and get data. Go here directly, I can see OData feed here. Okay, so I click on it. Here I have to provide this URL, right? You can see there's one basic and one advanced button, right? So if I click on advanced, it means if you have multiple web service links, and at the same time, if you want to extract the data from multiple links in Power BI, then you can add that link. Let's say I have another link, I can post it here. If I have another link, I can add it here. Okay, so it means you can add multiple links based on your requirement. Okay, now click on OK. As this is a public web service link, so I can connect to it anonymously. No password, user ID are required. Okay, so you can see I have connected and I can see the data where in Navigator window. It means once you can see the data in Navigator window, now you are ready to go for data transformation. So what you need to do, you need to select some tables here. For example, I'm going to use order details, customers, orders, products, and one more is category table. Fine, so I have selected these tables. Now you can see in this scenario, you can see there are like multiple tables. Okay, so if you want to search any particular table, then you can just go here and you can search, for example, region table. Select it. Now, if you want to see that how many tables you have selected, which you are going to load, for that you want to see the list of selected tables only. Right now it is showing complete list. I want to see a list of selected tables. Go to this options and click on only selected items. It will give you a list of only the selected items. Now it's up to me. Like if this data is transformed already, then if I want, I can directly load it in Power BI Desktop. But as a general practice, we should always load this data in query editor just to have a look that whether the data is cleaned or not, or if any data transformation is required. Okay, so let's click on this transform data. When I click on the transform data, data has been loaded in Power Query Editor. Okay, and where is this data right now? This data is in RAM, is in the RAM memory. You see in Power BI Desktop, nothing is appearing. Okay, it means right now this data has been loaded in your RAM. Fine. Now here you can do your data transformation, data modeling, like you can remove some columns, you can add some columns, you can do some joins, appends, whatever you want. You can do group by, pivot, unpivot, a lot of operations you can perform here. And these operations basically we call data transformation operations. Okay, all right. This is the way like how we extract the data from any OData link. Right now, let's load this data in Power BI Desktop. So for that, we have this straightforward option. Just click on close and apply, and it will start loading the data in Power BI Desktop. Right, so you can see that from all these tables, data is now loading. It is creating connection, and depending on the size of the data, the network speed, it may take some time.
We started with what is DAX. So data analysis expression or DAX is a formula language which has more than 200 functions, constants, and operators. So basically with the help of this DAX, we'll be creating a formula or expression which is going to return some single or more values and help us to perform some calculation on our data. As I've told earlier, with the help of this DAX, we will be creating calculated columns, measures, and tables based on our requirements. But why we have to use DAX? You can also create this Power BI report without even using any formula and get the insights from your data. Then what is the use of this DAX? Let's assume we want to compare year by year sales, that is this year with the previous year sale, or compare the sales with different categories. All these can be achieved only with the help of DAX. So basically, if you get the data you want, then it will be easy for you to solve the real world problems in a better way and also to get more insights of your data. So this is what about DAX is. To write any DAX expression, we should be knowing some of the fundamentals of DAX. So this helps us understanding how to write a basic expression or a column, anything we want. So these are the three fundamentals of DAX which we should be knowing before starting to write any DAX expression. So the first one is the syntax, then the context, and then the function. So these three makes the foundation of any DAX expression we want to write. Let's get started with the first one, syntax. So usually a syntax includes various things which is going to make up a formula or an expression. If you are familiar with programming languages, you would have come across what syntax exactly is. But if you are new to this, syntax is basically a grammar for using any programming languages. So here I have taken a simple syntax of measure. So this is a DAX expression. So to understand this expression in a better way, let's split this expression into different parts. The first one is going to be the measure name. That is, the total sales is the measure name or column name or anything based on your requirement. This can be user defined, but make sure you give a name such that it is related to your calculation you're performing. And the second one is the equal to sign, which is going to indicate the beginning of the formula. And the third one is the DAX function. So here all the DAX function will be entering in caps. And here I have taken a sum function. And the next one, fourth one is the parenthesis we have. So inside the parenthesis are the arguments or the parameters which we are going to pass to this function sum. So in this case, we are referencing the sales, that is the table, and inside which the sales amount is the column we have. So basically this expression is going to calculate the number we have in the sales amount column and give the result as the total sales. To understand this better, let's try out in our Power BI desktop so that we'll understand how it exactly works. So in my Power BI desktop, I'm using Adventure Work Sales. This is available in online. You can get it for free, this data source. So I'm going to create a measure to just understand how a basic DAX expression works, how to write it. So first we are going to give total sales as the measure name. And the main feature of Power BI will be seen now. So see, once you just type it, it is going to give you all the suggestions it has, all the function it has in the Power BI desktop. So we can just easily, so even if a person doesn't know what to use, how to use it, and once you give the function name, it is also going to tell you what you have to write inside that. As you can see here, some column name. So inside the sum function, we have to write some column name. So that column name here we are going to take as, it's better if you always write it with the table name. Sales amount. My column name is going to be sales amount. Close it. Once you finish writing an expression, enter it so that a measure will be created. So just drag and drop to the visualization area to see what it is. Make a card visual. So this is the total sales of our sales column. So this is quite easy to get it. Congratulations for creating your first measure using a DAX expression. This is so simple. You can just get it with one line expression. Let's get back to our PPT. Now we have understood the syntax part of DAX. Let's get to the next one, which is the context. So it is an important concept in writing any DAX expression, which is going to enable you building high performance and dynamic analysis. So the context in DAX are two types, row context and filter context. First, we'll see what is row context is. The row context is the most commonly used one, and it is a simple one also. This we will be using in many of the expressions we write in our data model. So basically, this row context is going to applies to each row. It is going to check each row in the table to which the filter is applied. So here only one filter will be applied. This is the major difference between the row context and the filter context. So in filter context, we will be having more than one filters just to reduce the values we have in the calculation. That is what is filter context is, and it is quite little hard to understand also. So to understand this context in a better way, we have a formula over here. So to understand any DAX formula, just split it into parts so that it will be easy for you to understand. So here, the first one, UK sales, is the measure name or the column name. And the second one is the equal to sign to just to tell the formula is starting. And the third one is the function name. Here we are using the calculate function, which is the most commonly used function. If you have a data model, for sure you'll be using this calculate function at least once. So what this calculate function basically does is, it is going to take two parameters. The first one is the column name and the second one is the filter. So this expression is an example for row context. Since it has one filter in it, so we are going to filter out the rows in the total sales column based on this country is equal to UK filter. So all the sales which are in that country will be returned as a result to the UK sales column. So this is what about context is. The next one we'll be seeing is the functions index. Basically, functions we write in all the programming languages to perform any task. The same way in DAX also, there are the predefined formulas to perform some calculation, which takes two or more arguments and returns one or more results. So in DAX, the arguments can be required parameters or the optional. It is not necessary that all the arguments are required in a function. There are optional parameters as well. As we have seen in the Power BI desktop, it is going to even show you whether it is a required parameter or an optional parameter. So then here we are going to see these four functions in DAX, that is date and time, text, logical, and information functions. There are a lot of functions we have in DAX, but we are going to see these four most commonly used ones. Let's start it with the text function. So basically this text function is going to work on string values. As the name indicates, it is going to work on strings. If you're going to provide any numeric values or other than text values, if you're going to provide, it is not going to consider it. So the first text function we are going to see is the concatenate function. So this function basically going to combine two strings into a one string. So this mainly helps in creating a column like full name, concatenating the first name and the last name. That would be a great example for concatenating function. So the first we should understand the syntax as well. So as we have seen already, the first thing will be the function name, and then inside the parenthesis, it is going to have the arguments. Here it takes two arguments, the first string and the second string, which we are going to separate with the help of a comma. And as a result, we will be getting the concatenation of two strings. Let's try that and see. Let's create a new measure over here. Now let's just try how a concatenate function works. So this here I'm just going to type. So you can pass the columns as well as the input, but here I'm just going to pass the direct input. As usual, once you're done, press enter. So the hello world is printed and this concatenate is just the measure name. So this is how a concatenate function works. This you can apply based on your requirement. If you have a column name or a table, you can reference it with the table and the column name and combine those two columns. Since I just worked on with the direct example. Let's get back. So this is the first text function we saw just now. The second text functions we have is the upper. This we all know that it is upper, as the name indicates. It is going to just convert the string to a uppercase. Make sure you, when you are reading some function, make sure you know the syntax of it properly so that it will be easy for you. If you don't know also, it's fine, because Power BI is going to give you suggestions. Once you just type U, it is going to give you the suggestion. So the upper is going to take only one parameter and just convert that into a uppercase. Just convert that same string into uppercase. Just try out this on your own so that you'll have a better understanding. The next one is the logical functions. So the logical function basically returns values in your expression either true or false based on your logical condition you are providing. So we'll see. So this is the most commonly used one, not only in DAX, in any of the programming language, you will be using this. If is very common one. So this is going to check a condition and returns a value whether it is true or not. So the syntax is just type the uh, function name and then give the condition and then print true or false. If you're not typing the false also, it's fine, because once the second value is not printed, it is going to take it as blank. Let's try this out as well. Data measure.
Just a quick info, guys. Test your knowledge of Power BI by answering this question. In which of the following context style is Power BI DAX? A. Row context. B. Filter context. C. Both row and filter context. Comment your answer in the comment section below. Subscribe to Intellipaat to know the right answer. Now, let's continue with the session.
To easily identify it, I'm just giving it like this names. There, a simple 9 greater than. If the result is false, it is going to print the false statement. 9 is of course not greater than 10, so it produces a result false. Let's get back and see some more logical functions we have. So this is the if function, and the next one is very obvious, that the and function. So this is going to return you true values if both the condition we are specifying. As you see the syntax, inside the and function, we are going to pass two arguments. So the logical one and the logical two. This is not like arguments, this is going to be the conditions. So if these two conditions are true, then it will return as true or false. If it is true, both the conditions should be true. That is what the main thing. And works when both the conditions are true. The next one we have is or. So this is going to return the true statement if one of the condition itself is true. If any one, we are going to provide two conditions. In that, if any one condition is true, it is going to give the result as true. Try out these as well. These are some of the basic ones, so we can try it on our own itself. So the next one we will be seeing is the date and time function. So this date and time function, if you have worked with Excel already, then this is just similar. This is going to work just similar to the functions we use in the Excel. So here we have the date related to date and time, like month, year, all these we can get it easily. So first function in the date and time is month. So this is going to return the month as a number. So as you see here, the month, the date time can be in any format. There are different date formats we have with the year, without the year, with the slash or anything. That date format can be anything. So just that date time we are going to pass as an argument, like this example. So this inside this, it is going to only take June and then print 6 as the output. Let's try that out. It is not necessary that it should be same as the function name. Just for my convenience, I'm just giving month logically. Here my if the 6 is displayed over here as a result. Since we have passed June as a month, it gave a result 6. This is one of the date and time function. Instead of month, you can use day, date, year. The same thing. If you try, you'll be getting the different things. The next date and time function we have is the dative. So this is going to return the count of interval. So this is just going to give the difference based on the interval you are providing. So as you see the syntax, you have the dative with 3 parameters. So first you have to give the start date, then the end date, then the interval you have to specify. So it is going to calculate, suppose in the example we have specified year, and these two are going to be some date thing. So this is going to calculate the difference between these two dates based on the year. Suppose like we have in this 2008 and in this 2012, then it is going to return 4 as your year. That is the 4 as your date def. So this is basic. Instead of year, you can pass days. You can count the number of days between the start date and the end date. And also you can calculate the month or quarter, anything you can calculate with this date def function. So the next one we are going to see is the information function, which evaluates a value or columns provided as an argument to another function, and it is going to just inform you whether it matches with the expected value. Something like to check, like whether this value is presented in the table or not, whether it is blank or not, whether it has error. All these kind of functions are known as information functions in DAX. So the first information function we'll be seeing is the contains. So this function is going to check for the specified value we are giving in the column or in the table, and if the column name or the value exists, it is going to return true. Otherwise, it is going to return false. Let's try this out. Power BI contains my table is sales, and inside which the column product key and the value inside the product key should be this. You can pass many column names as well. You can check many columns as well. So I'm going to pass one more column.
Just a quick info, guys. Intellipaat provides Power BI online certification training in partnership with Microsoft, mentored by industry experts. The course link is given in the description below. Now, let's continue with the session.
The customer key, and then I'm going to check the customer key. So inside the fact internet sales table, we are going to check the product key with this value and the customer key with this value. If it is existing in that table, it is going to give a true. Otherwise, it is going to print false. So it is false. So that information, that product key with that value and the customer key with that value is not there in the table fact internet sales which we searched. So it returned a result false. So the next thing, so these are some of the functions, basically like most commonly used functions in the DAX. There are a lot of functions you can try out.
So again, these will be pretty much straightforward, could seem intuitive. Like a lot of people would think that these things might be intuitive. Some of these factors, of course they are, but a lot of times we tend to forget because the speed at which you have to work, sometimes these things get missed. But as you go along, if you just keep these things in mind and work with it in the starting of phase of your career, then you will be applying it everywhere. So this is following the best practices is a very important part of being a professional, and being the professional, it's expected that from your work that you are following the best practices. For example, this belongs to domain wide, right? So it does not really apply just to the data analyst. Let's say if you are a programmer, people would want certain standard of code out there. Nobody would be expecting you to write random codes with let's say a variable a is equal to something. They don't want it. The code should be standardized. It should look properly indented so that anyone who does not even know programming, if he is going through your program, he should be able to understand what is going on. Certain standards are expected, and those standards are set by the best practices. And if you go into any good organization, they would be expecting you to perform with the best practices which are out there. So let's quickly dive into our facts for today on the best practices. So the first one on our hand here is, now again, this is an interesting one. It means the first best practice that you should follow is restrict the number of visuals on in your dashboards and reports. Now, as I said, data visualization is important, but if you just fill in the entire report with just visualizations of every kind and they are packed up in the one location, that would be a big problem. And according to Microsoft themselves, for the they have produced this optimization guide for Power BI. They themselves say that placing many visuals in a single report basically slows down the report performance. So that is one of the problems that you will have while creating a report which has a lot of visualization aspects in one place. Right, so what they would want you to do is limit the number of widgets which are visuals to no more than 8 per report page, and grids to no more than 1 per report page, and this is as per the Microsoft's guideline. And you can limit the number of pages to no more than 30 points. So cards would be 1, gauges would be 2, charts would be 3, maps would be 3, and grids would be 5. I'll repeat the number again. The card should be 1, gauges should be 2, charts should be 3, maps should be 3, and grid should be 5, right? And you should also limit the tiles to no more than 10 per dashboard. So these are the basic guidelines which are provided by Microsoft themselves. So this is something that you should follow by standard. So limiting and restricting the number of visuals in your dashboard reports is important for the efficient functioning of the tool that you are using, as well as for the sake of your stakeholders. A lot of information at one go is also not let's say not very appealing. So let's say if, for example, if I were to put this image, that's the screen that you are seeing, with entirely full of text or full of graphs, you won't be able to understand what is going on. You need certain kind of finesse to whatever the report that you are producing, right? So there should be clarity, there should be cleanliness about whatever you are producing, and that you can do by restricting the number of visuals in the dashboard, right? The next one is you need to remove the unnecessary interactions between the visuals, right? So this is again this a lot of people know this. Whoever is working with Power BI, they know this, that by default all of the visuals which are present on a report page can interact with one another. And basically, for having an optimal performance of your Power BI, it is recommended that you should modify and control these interactions between whatever the visuals that you are keeping on your report page. It is basically recommended that you do that by default. And reducing the number of queries, this interaction that they are having, this basically what it does is basically impacts your backend. So backend is where your database is there, right? So these interactions between the visuals basically send a lot of queries to your database. So imagine one person is there, he's answering all of your questions, he has all of the information, and you're constantly pinging him for questions again and again and again and again and again, right? So what will that do? It will basically make the entire process slower. It will make him inefficient, that you're constantly pinging him and there is no time to think about it. So if there are so many questions along the way, some questions will be getting answered slowly, right? In the similar fashion, the number of queries that you are firing with these unnecessary interactions is too much. So reducing the number of queries fired at the backend to improve the performance can be achieved by basically disabling the unwanted activities or interaction between these visuals, right? So next one is provide data categorizations for Power BI reports. In the bracket that says HBI, MBI, and LBI, which is basically...
Just a quick info, guys. Test your knowledge of Power BI by answering this question. How would you add a visual to a dashboard in Power BI? A. Embed. B. Snap. C. Stick. D. Reorder. Comment your answer in the comment section below. Subscribe to Intellipaat to know the right answer. Now, let's continue with the session.
Which basically corresponds to high business impact, medium business impact, and low business impact. So HBI, MBI, and LBI is the basically are the kinds of reports which are segregated on the basis of the impact that it has on the business. So high business impact data requires the users to get some policy exceptions to share the data externally, right? So and low and medium businesses do not have that kind of an exception policy, so you do not indulge in that scenario. But whenever you're using Power BI, the sensitivity levels are very important. So you must raise the awareness to the user about the security of the data. So let's say if I am using certain kind of data which is very sensitive, or so it cannot be shared publicly, right? So you can share the reports in Power BI, as I mentioned before, and some data which is shared even in the organization also should not be known to everyone. So there is certain level of security and abstraction that you have to provide within the organization itself while dealing with different kinds of information. So if it is something which impacts the business highly, it should only be available to those people who are at that level to know about these information, and not to the people who are not responsible for it. So basically having those categorization for data of these kinds is important for this respect. Let's say if we are working with some confidential information about, let's say, the business is going down heavily due to something, if this might happen, you do not want that to be known to company wide. You would want that to be known to the people who are making the decision, so that they can alter something and make better results, or they can work on that problem. And outside, if it gets leaked and the public starts shaming you, it could be different problem altogether, right? So having that kind of and segregation with respect to the data, or abstraction with respect to the data, is very important in that scenario. Let's move forward and talk about the next one, which is the test the performance of each custom visual on a report. So first and foremost, it is recommended that you only use the custom visuals which are Microsoft approved. Do not use anything random which is out there when you are working with company data. It could be it could have some kind of glitches or something which is which you may not expect it to do, or maybe it could be some kind of a virus or anything. I'm just speculating out here. Just use those standard things which are available when you are working with company information, right? So use only those custom visuals which are approved by Microsoft. And again, whenever you're using, let's say, these custom visuals as well, so you might be thinking that these would be doing great, but sometimes it would happen that based on your data and the way that you are using the data, these visuals might not perform up to the scratch that you want to, right? So basically, uncertified custom visuals are not thoroughly tested by the Power BI teams, so they might perform very poorly, or the complex aggregations would be there which are not working well for you. So test the performance of each and every individual custom visual when you are using it. And let's say if when you're testing it says it is providing more of an impact that you'd want, that it is making the performance slower than you'd actually want it to be, in those scenarios look for certain kinds of alternatives to those visuals, so that you basically maintain the performance, because it is very important that you maintain the efficiency with respect to the Power BI application that you are using, right? So the next one is again a very simple one. Use the on-premise gateway. It is recommended that you use the on-premise gateway rather than the simple one, because for the simple fact that when you use it if you do not use the on-premise gateway, it starts to load certain kind of information which basically slows down the entire process, while using the on-premise one, it does not get those information or download the information, so it basically makes the entire process faster. So it is always recommended that you use on-premise gateway, right? So from there, let's move to the next one, which is import only the necessary fields from the tables instead of the entire data sets. Again, something which is very straightforward and important, but a lot of people commit this basic mistake all the time. So let's say I have a sheet full of information. So let's say if you are a computer, how do you go about processing all of that? It does not have the infinite capability to process that information all the time, right? So it does not, it's not something which is fully competent to do everything. So what you want to do in that scenario is to make the entire process more efficient, and the way to do it more efficient is to provide just the data that it needs, rather than giving it, let's say, a huge chunk of data with, say, lakhs of rows is out there, and you just want it to search through it. That would make the process slower. So if there is, let's say, if you just need from the image, if you can see on the right hand side, if you just need the first row which is highlighted in green, if you just need that information just provided with those fields and only those tables which have those information, so that it makes the process faster, rather than it having to search through, let's say, n number of tables for the information that it needs, just basically makes the entire process slower. So it is again something which is very intuitive and easy to understand, but a lot of times for the sake of their own let's say easiness, people tend to just load the entire data sets and just blame the Power BI. But if you would apply a little bit of more time and effort on that, you could just provide it with the tables and the fields that it needs, then the entire impact on the Power BI's efficiency would be much more. So it will be much more efficient if you just give it the data that it needs, right? So let's move forward. And the next one is use the report tooltip pages to provide more context with respect to the highlighted measure. So if you have, let's say, any highlighted measure, if you want to provide more context to it, you should be using a report tooltip. So basically, report tooltips are a great way of sharing additional information on the entire metric. So what you'd want to do with respect to that also, so let's say if you are using the report tooltip also, what you'd want to do is use limited number of visuals also in there, because that is our rule one. If when we started with this live, that is the rule one, to use the limited number of visuals. Do the same when you're using the report tooltip as well, and ensure that you select the tooltip field very carefully. So you have two certain kinds of things that you can choose in front of it, right? So it could be a categorical tooltip and the other could be the measure. So based on the requirement, you can basically choose. While choosing it, you have to be more careful about what kind of it is. So whenever you are using a tooltip also, it is important that you keep in mind while using what kind of measure you are choosing. And the other one is the simple fact that you can give more context in there rather than writing it anywhere else. You can use tooltip to provide those information. Next one is again a very simple one. If it says that use the names that would be meaningful to your audience. So this audience could be the other business users that you are talking about. It could be the stakeholders that you are presenting the information to. It could be some other business meeting that you are going to. It could be anyone, right? So what you want by that is, let's say this goes for anyone also working in any professional field. Let's say if you were a programmer also, so people who do programming would be able to relate. So let's say if I start writing an entire code and I use variables like a, b, x, xy and things like this, where the variable name does not tell me what is going on, it would be very hard for anyone to understand what is actually going on. So let's say if it's a field which gives you the name, right, it could be a simple. So in there also you want to give meaningful names. So what is the name of, so let's say sports names, or it could be courses names, or different things like that. So there also give information. If you just write names in this one and names in the next field also, it does not make sense. People won't be able to understand what is going on. So for the sake of the people who are watching your reports, because the whole point of providing data visualization is to save a lot of time, to get your points across very easily and more intuitively, so that people would be able to understand what is going on. In the interest of keeping that alive, what you would want to do is provide meaningful names to your audience, so that is very easy for them to understand what is going on, and they would be able to interpret the entire information in a much more efficient fashion, right? And with the next one that we'll be discussing with you, so this is again you can avoid a lot of scrolls on your visual page. So again, nobody likes to scroll a lot here and there, so you'd want your entire piece of information that you are providing to be very optimized. So, and for that, try to avoid a lot of scrolling on your pages, make it more efficient for the entire pages. And that is about some simple practices that you can do. Some other things that you might want to keep in mind is that you can use something called as a query reduction, which basically reduces the number of query sent by Power BI. By using the certain things which is called for settings for slicers and filters, you can basically reduce the amount of query which is being sent by Power BI. So you can use query reduction is another tip that I'll give you. Another thing that you can follow is you can use the drill through button to generate an intuitive user experience. So basically you can enable these buttons, which gives you more drill down information with respect to any information that you're working with. It makes your data points more intuitive. And you can use conditional formatting to make the text on the button context driven. So you can basically, let's say if I click on there, you can just provide more information there. Like if I click on one particular data point, I can have that button pop up on the bottom which says see more details with respect to this data point, and you can just click on that button and get more data. So that is something that again you can use. So this is another tip that you should be following. And with that, I think we are done with all the basic information that you would need. There are a few other things that you should keep in mind, like use certain light colors instead of dark ones, and that basically comes down to the personal preference, but these are the standard things that you must keep in mind.
What are the skills that are needed to become a professional in Power BI? When you talk about skills, the first most important thing which you can start out with in the world of BI is to have advanced knowledge about Microsoft Excel. Microsoft Excel no doubt is a very simple tool to use, but then it drives so much complexity if you know how to work with it, especially the advanced functions aspect of it, and there's a lot. So MS Excel is extremely powerful, even though the population completely doesn't make use of all of that power of Excel apart from its spreadsheeting capabilities, of course. And then the important skill which is needed is data modeling. You need to understand how to handle with a variety of data from a different sources, club the data into models, and these models, as you saw in the previous step, are the ones which get which gets visualized, right? So this step is very important, and this skill makes it really vital as well. Then of course, when we come to DAX formulas, these will help you completely in the world of Power BI, especially when you're creating graphs, and these formulas with the stage of modeling and analytics will play a vital role as well. And then you need to have a little bit of knowledge on Power Query. Whenever you talk about Power BI, Power Query will help you get started with it quicker. And of course, whenever you're working with really complex dashboards, the knowledge of Power Query will not hurt. and then to have the ability to build interactive dashboards, because at the end of the day, when we're talking about Power BI, it's a very powerful visualization tool, and it is used to create amazing dashboards as well. So if you already have the ability to create these dashboards, then it becomes really advantageous in case if you're jumping from another business intelligence tool into Power BI, or eventually if you're starting out to use it professionally as well. So all of these skills, fear not guys, in case if you do not have most of these skills or any of these skills, because with a particular certification program, if you are given the structured method to learn, understand and actively implement this while learning, you will pick up on these skills in no time. Now with that, if you have to talk about the individual skills which also add real value to you guys being a professional in Power BI, is one thing is SQL. You need to understand how the structured query language works, how the data is handled there. And then of course, talking about databases, there is Microsoft SQL, MySQL, Oracle, and there's a lot of other database providers, versions and flavors of database handling that you need to be aware as well. And then if you already have advanced MS Excel knowledge, there is a good chance you will know what tables are, how to use table joins, how to use pivot tables, and all of these concepts which are a part of advanced Excel. So these also add a lot of value whenever there is any talk about the skills that is actually needed to become an expert in Power BI. Now, if we have to talk about the scope of Power BI, one very important thing that you need to look at is data analytics is the future right now. So, be it any field, it is becoming very important that people are using and driving analytics through their businesses, because at the end of the day, the businesses are putting a lot of money in this particular aspect, and only because of the fact that they know that the returns are really worth it and the returns are really high. The analytics and the dashboards that are basically created from Power BI have the capability to bring in exponential business later, because it gives them that much clearer idea of their data and their company as well, right? So in any field, this especially alongside the field of artificial intelligence and machine learning, pretty much opens up the doors to a lot new industries where we can use these concepts in together to eventually visualize a lot of data and understand how Power BI can power our future as well. And with that, of course, you guys are curious about the average salary of a Power BI developer, and the numbers are very good, to be honest with you, because in the USA the average salary is somewhere around $120,000 per annum. In India it's around 10 lakhs per annum, and of course in the United Kingdom it's somewhere around 70,000 pounds. See, as a person, as a certified associate with the relevant skills, the project works and all of that, you will have access to these packages very easily, because this, as I just mentioned in the previous slide, so basically what this does is, if you are certified, there are a lot of jobs that are very ready to hire you. They're on their foot because even they know the power of analytics and they do not want and wait for their competition to get ahead, right? So everyone is investing in this, and this has proven to be an effective field for the future as well. So when you think about that aspect, being a Power BI developer is not only going to be very financially good, but then a lot of people enjoy doing these because of it being so easy to use, and with the aesthetic beauty of Power BI as well. Now, coming on to the first question on this list of top Power BI interview questions, let's begin by checking out this. What exactly is self-service BI? Well, self-service BI or self-service business intelligence, right? It is called as SSBI. So you can be asked a question saying what is SSBI as well, and the answer is the same. So it's an approach that we take to perform data analytics, to report the result of these analytics, and to of course complement it with good data visualization that at the end of the day will make sure that a user, a client, or anyone has the ability to actually perform all of these above mentioned tasks and understand it, drive business insights out of it, create dashboards without having to put much effort. One of the most important things that you're supposed to mention whenever you're asked about the SSBI is that the person who's working with this, right, the person who's trying to provide the BI solution, he or she really does not need any sort of technical proficiency or let's say a large amount of expertise when it comes to working with reporting, because at the end of the day you'll be making use of a lot of filters that are already available, data manipulation options that are actually put into place to help the user, and you can work with it, you can customize it, and you can have a solution to your business intelligence problem without having to put much effort. That at the end of the day is what makes SSBI special. Now, with this, we can move to question number 2 that states, what is the difference between managed enterprise BI and self-service BI? Whenever we talk about the managed enterprise BI, right, the data flow there is a little unordered. So there is no structured way that the data flows, but in the case of self-service BI, the data is via an ordered flow. And with this unordered data and ordered data flow of the difference that we have in between managed enterprise and self-service BI, it affects a lot in the second point as well, that is efficiency. So when we're talking about efficiency, right, since we're ingesting unordered data, since you're bringing unordered data into the pipeline, it means that it's going to take a lot of time, it's going to take a lot of effort, and it's going to take a lot of pre-processing as well in the case of managed enterprise. But in the case of self-service BI, since the data itself is coming in a structured way, in an ordered way, the process can go on in such a way that the process methodologies and the models can actually start working on the data rather than having to spending a lot of time worrying on how the data is coming, what order is it coming in, and working with it as well. So coming on to programming skills, when you talk about managed enterprise, right, here is where you will require training, proficiency, and working knowledge of how the BI tool works, because at the end of the day here you'll be making use of complex programming skills, and this comes by practice. You can be taught a lot of things, but at the end of the day, practical experience and hands-on experience in the production environment matters a lot for managed enterprise BIs. But when you contrast it to the self-service BI, here is where the code is really simple. At the end of the day, you will not require much of code at all. A beginner, a person who is uninitiated in the field of BI can actually get started and work on providing a decent enough solution, business intelligence solution, of course, without having to put much effort into it. So it's small code that has a large effect on the program or the outcome or the goal in discussion as well. So this is the simple differences that lie in between a managed enterprise business intelligence tool and a self-service business intelligence tool. So question number 3, it states, why are you interested in Power BI? What makes you think that Power BI would be a great career option? There is a very good chance your interview can start with this question itself. So to go on to approach this question, understand it first. The first part of it says, why are you interested in Power BI? Here you can approach it in 2 ways. One, you can tell your inclinations of why you like Power BI or how you have solved a problem before and how you're planning to solve a problem using that as well. But there's another approach that you can take is tell why Power BI is something that you have to prefer. Because if the interviewer is expecting an answer saying why Power BI, why not other BI tools, then you can go on to talk about the advantages of BI. For example, talk about the advantages of Power BI. For example, Power BI makes use of a cloud-based data reporting tool. It's an amazingly easy to use visualization tool backed by Microsoft. It provides everything that's needed to perform data handling and data reporting as well. And it's just not that. After the report generation has been done, dashboards have been created. You can share it across the globe easily, be it in your workspace, be it to someone else, be it online, whatever it is. So this one particular aspect of easily being able to finish your task and share it, of course, is what makes Power BI very, very efficient and very popular among all the business users out there. Because let's face it, at the end of the day, less work, better efficiency is something that all the businesses would definitely like to enforce, and this does just that. So with this, it's a win-win-win, right? So that's one of the reasons of why you should be thinking towards answering it this way. Second part of the question says, what makes you think that Power BI would be a great career option? Well, business intelligence is in demand everywhere right now, right? There are hundreds of thousands of businesses across the globe where everyone wants an analyst, everyone wants a solution to the problem that they have. A BI analyst will fit in 99.9% of the business companies out there. Now, in that case, considering that it is a trending career, it is among the top 10 roles to have in the next decade. And of course, this decade as well, it makes it a no-brainer that you guys would love to jump on the trend, make full use out of it, and provide effective solutions to the problems we have in the world of business today. So moving on to the fourth question, it states, mention the important features of Power BI. Well, as you might already know it now that you're on the video here, Power BI has many features, right? So you can probably talk 20 minutes just about the features of Power BI, but then do read the room. Understand what the interviewer is expecting. Is he or she expecting a concise and a small answer, or is he or she expecting you to elaborate on it? Or whatever the case, at least make sure you mention four of the important features. See, for example, Power BI is used to transform data into beautiful looking visualization and aesthetic presentation and helps you share it very easily. First point. The second point is that you can have the ability to bring in data from multiple sources, in fact, perform a quick analysis even before you work on it, have an all-in-one view of it as well. Coming on to point number 3. Point number 3 talks about how you can scale your data, how you can scale your solutions right from the startups all the way till the established organizations out there, be it governance, be it security, be it military, whatever it is. The span of Power BI is as good as the implementation itself. So at the end of the day, when you're thinking about it, you can span it anywhere you want. And then fourth point, once an output is basically generated, what happens in the case of Power BI is that users have the capability to actually scale these and show it in multiple devices at the same time if it supports the Power BI application as well. If you want to show the output on your phone, yes, possible. Laptop, yes. Have it on the cloud, yes. Put it on a website, yes. So there's many things that you can do with Power BI if there is support to do it as well. And the support for Power BI from Microsoft is of course really good. So these are some of the very important points, right? But then when you have to try to showcase that you know a little bit more about Power BI, you can talk about the NLP capabilities of Power BI. You can talk about Power BI Q&A, which of course we'll discuss in the next couple of questions on how, of course, user can make use of queries on reporting by not really having to use complex programming languages or let's say complex querying techniques to work with the database as well. So there's many things. But as I mentioned, make sure to talk about the top 4 or 5 features of Power BI. Now with this, moving on to the 5th question, it states, is Power BI free to use? The answer is yes. Users can actually make use of Power BI for free in case if you have had practical experience using it. Well, but the best of the best features of Power BI can be availed with the Pro subscription that costs a little bit of money. Of course, this can be purchased from the Microsoft Store or through the application itself. It's a subscription-based application where you can actually go on to use enhanced features of already existing feature set that's provided with the free account. So if the basic features and functionalities work good enough for you to solve your problem, then perfect. If not, if there is a requirement for let's say more ease of use, or let's say there is a requirement for more powerful filters or whatever it is, then considering a Pro account or a Pro subscription definitely adds a lot of value. Because what most business users do is they have a subscribed account where it provides a lot more features. See, for example, instant data refreshes by the day, and many other powerful solutions which are missed in the free version. It is totally understandable, but do know that Power BI Pro subscription makes Power BI pack a huge punch. It's a very powerful tool, even in its free form, but once you go paid, once you go all in, it's a beautiful app to work with as well. So make sure to answer it this way. Coming on to question number 6, it states, what are the versions of Power BI? See, Power BI versions, you really don't have to talk about the version number and all of that when you ask this question, but talk about how Power BI is basically divided, right? See, it's a tool that brings a lot of flexibility when you talk about data reporting, handling and working with it and whatnot. So to complement all of these, to leverage the power of Power BI and make the full use out of it, it is divided into multiple versions. We have the Power BI desktop, which is basically used as an on-premise software for Windows 10 or any other Windows for that matter. And then we have the Power BI services, which are used for publishing and pushing the reports to the cloud directly. And then we have the mobile Power BI, where we try to cater solutions via the mobile operating systems as well, be it iOS, be it Android, and more. So these are the 3 important versions that you should mention when you ask this question. It's Power BI desktop, Power BI service, and of course Power BI mobile or mobile Power BI. Now, with this, we can move on to the 7th question that states, what is Power BI desktop? This can be a follow-up to the last question as well. So Power BI desktop is actually a Windows-based application that is used for personal computers. It is used for laptops. It is used for microcomputers. That is basically used, to design dashboards, to generate reports, and to publish them to the cloud at the end of the day. And finding the most native way to do it in the Windows operating system is what Power BI helps us to do. So by making use of Power BI on PCs, right, a full-fledged environment is actually not even required to work with. If you have a basic machine that has the capability to run Power BI, then it's more than sufficient that you start working with it. For example, for some features, right, you will not even require being connected to the internet as well. So if you have to work offline, then of course you can do it. But then if you have to publish it to the cloud or share it with colleagues, then of course there is the requirement for internet, but I'm sure you already know that. Now, when you're thinking about how easy it is to get started with Power BI desktop, well, you can jump right in, check out some samples out there as well, and begin working to learn, or let's say explore around Power BI without having any prior experience using the tool as well. So that's one of the big advantages of making use of Power BI desktop. You can get right in, get your hands messy, and see what you can come up with as well. Now, moving on to the 8th question, it states, what are the major components of Power BI? Power BI has 5 very important components that you have to talk about. One is the Power Pivot, where we talk about how we can fetch the data, clean the data, and load it onto what we call as Power Query. Power Query is used in between the user interaction between the data that is present and how we interact with it based on a lot of features, programming sets, and for example, operations such as loading the data, pulling the data, cleaning the data, and a lot more. And of course, Power QA is basically to interact with the reports that we generate from the data, and this is done by using simple language as well. And then we have the Power View. The Power View is basically used to create a lot of charts, graphs, maps, and many other types of visuals that we can use to aesthetically present the data in the form of a good dashboard or great report as well. And lastly, we have Power Map. Power Map will make sure that we can have the processing power of global icons on the screen, where we're trying to depict or show the processing of accurate geographical locations that are present in the data sets. For example, sales figures in a particular country, support operations in another part of the world, a lot more that you can do with Power Map. So when you ask this question, make sure to mention the 5 different components of Power BI. That's Power Map, Power Q&A, Power Query, Power View, and of course Power Pivot. So with this, we can check out the 9th question that states, what is the purpose of the get data icon in Power BI? This is a very commonly asked question, but then it has a very simple solution. The get data icon, as the name suggests, is actually used to ingest all the data into your Power BI dashboard or your working environment. You can have Excel files, you can have XML files, be it JSON, PDF, SharePoint, CSV files, a lot of other files that you can directly ingest into your program, or in fact into your working environment with just 1 or 2 clicks. That is how simple it is, and we use that icon for this purposes, right? So in case if you have databases such as SQL Server Analytics Services, you have Oracle, IBM, MySQL, Access, Microsoft Access, of course, and lot more that you can start pulling in and check out what data sets are supported by Power BI, how you can pull it in, and how you can make full use out of it with 1 or 2 clicks as well. That's the specialty of this particular button. Now, if you're wondering about pulling data from the cloud directly, the answer is yes. You can directly hook up your Power BI into Microsoft Azure network and multiple other cloud platforms as well. And through this button, through this icon, you will find all the options and all the things that are required to pull all the data and bring it into your working environment easily. That's the advantage of Power BI. Now, moving on to the 10th question, it states, how can we filter the data we ingested in Power BI? Well, data filtering is something that Power BI is definitely known for. It's popular for. What happens here is that data can be filtered by making use of a lot of filters that are already present, in fact, implicitly. So you really don't have to explicitly start working on it. If you program your Power BI to do it automatically for you, it has the capability to do it. But then when we talk about the filters, right, there are 3 important types of filters in Power BI that we have. One we call as the drill through filters. Second, we have the page level filters. And third, we have the report level filters. When we talk about the drill through filters, what we're trying to do here is that, especially in Power BI desktop, users can go on to create a page where their report is present, but then there are many things on a report that can get confusing, right? But with the drill through filter, as the name suggests, we are trying to drill through to the specific requirements that we have. Let's say you're talking about a manufacturing pipeline. Here you can go on to concentrate with suppliers, concentrate about customers, manufacturers, the graphs that are involved behind it, how these values are changing with respect to time, and a lot more. So to hone in on that particular requirement that we have to focus on. That is where drill through filters come into the picture. And then we have the page level filters. Page level filters where we try to filter out via each individual page, as the name suggests, pretty simple. And then we have the report level filters. Again, here we try to simultaneously filter all of the charts that are present in all of the pages of a single report. So one report can have multiple pages. If a page has to be filtered, we can use page level filters. If the reports have to be filtered, we have report level filters. But at the end of the day, if you have to get into a particular report, a particular page of that report, then perform some focus analysis on it, then you have the drill through filters. So make sure to answer this in a clear and a concise way. Now, coming on to question number 11. Question number 11 states, where is data stored in Power BI? Well, when data gets ingested into the Power BI environment, it gets stored into two types of tables. One is we have the fact table, and the other we have the dimension tables. So what happens in the case of fact tables is that we have a central table in the schema, what we call as the star schema. You might know it if you've worked on data warehousing. So a fact table will consider and store all of the quantitative information that is required for us to perform analytics. But one very important thing that you have to mention about fact tables is that the data is not normalized in the case of fact tables. So make sure to mention that. Now, when we talk about the dimension tables, right? Dimension tables on the other hand also make use of a star schema, but here what we're trying to do is we're trying to store the metadata of the data as well. So think about storing attributes, think about storing dimensions, think about storing things that actually describe the data or describe the objects that are present in our previous fact table where the data is actually stored. Fact table is where we have the data, dimension table is where we express and talk more about the data. Think of it that way. So when you ask this question about where the data is stored, make sure you talk about fact tables and make sure you talk about dimensional tables, and of course state how each of these work as well. So moving on to the 12th question, it says, what are content packs? Well, content packs are again one of the most important things in the world of Power BI, because this is where we can package reports, dashboards, data set, share it with other people very easily. Because one thing about a content pack is that whenever you head to a website, right, your portal, the Power BI portal, here you can merge your workspace list. Here you can check out all your reports, check out all your dashboards without having to put much effort into it. But then when you have to stress a little bit about content packs, right? So what it mainly does is it provides limited access or complete access to certain charts, certain lists, certain pages, and certain reports based on your organization structure. So if you want to deny access or authorize access to some people, you can do that. The second thing is that you can customize it with a title, give it a little description, and make sure that the user or the person who's seeing the reports or the dashboard has the ability to pick what's required and leave what's not required. So with content packs, that can be done. And of course, we have the next point, which talks about how users can have access and create new dashboard from the content pack itself, rather than having to open up the tool again and working with it hands on. So these three features form to be one of the most notable features of content packs. And at the end of the day, whenever you talk about content packs, know one thing, this is a topic where you can definitely stress on and talk about for 5 to 10 minutes straight, but then there is a very good chance that the interviewer is expecting a clear and a concise answer. So make sure you keep it that way. Now with this, we can check out the 13th question that states, what are the different views in Power BI desktop? Well, there are 3 different views in Power BI that you're supposed to know about, and each of these view has its own unique purpose. For example, we have the report view. In the report view, what we're trying to do is we're trying to add visualizations, add multiple report pages, add multiple reports, and see how we can publish it right then and there from the Power BI desktop. So this is the report view, where we can actually have a full scale view of what's going on. Then we have the data view. Data view is where we perform operations such as data pre-processing, data shaping, and all of these by making use of the query editor tools. So this is data view. And then we have the third different view in Power BI. This is basically the relationship view. The relationship view is used to actually show and manage the relationships that are present in the data sets that we are working with currently as well. So each of these view, as you can see, a relationship view gives the ability for us to manage relationships. Data view gives us a header through which we can work with the query editor tools, and we have the report view where we can add visualizations and work with the report directly as well. So you can see these are 3 different views that do 3 different things as well. So it is very important that you answer it this way. Now with this, we can check out the 14th question that states, what is row level security? This is a very important question, so make sure to concentrate. So a low level security, basically what it does, it means that it is trying to restrict the data that a user can actually access, the user can view and work with it by making use of certain set of filters that come built in Power BI. So to configure this and to begin working with row level security, all you have to do is you have to configure and put into place certain rows, and of course certain roles, and of course certain rules as well, because in Power BI this is very easy to do, and these rules and roles that you provide is applicable as soon as you push it to the Power BI service as well. Let's say if you have to put it to the cloud, put it to a website, Power BI mobile, whatever it is. So there is a function here what we call as the username function. This is used along with the table relationships to see which user has access to what kind of data in the data set as well. So if you're the current user working on it, this function can actually show what restrictions are applicable to the current data. Now, when you're thinking about enabling row level security, right, one important thing that you have to know about is to do this, you require the Power BI Pro subscription. So this cannot be done in the free subscription, but then Excel sheets can of course be used wherever it's being converted to the PBIX file format, which is the Power BI index format as well. So make sure you talk about how the Power BI Pro subscription is needed, how it works, how you can configure, and how you can use the username function to actually showcase the relationship between the data access and the current user who's using it as well. Now, moving on to the 15th question, it says, what is DAX and what are the benefits of making use of variables in DAX? DAX is an acronym for data analysis expressions, and this is one of the most important things in Power BI because this is what we use to query and return all of the data by making use of table expressions in Power BI. So it's actually a language. Think of it like SQL, where we're actually trying to use formulas, where we're trying to perform basic calculations, where we're trying to perform data analysis on all the data that's present in Power Pivot. But then we're not trying to talk about the data directly, but then we're trying to see how we can work with the data. Hence, this is where it differs from your query language. It's used to compute your columns, calculated fields, your measures. You can do a lot with DAX. At the end of the day, what you cannot do is you cannot insert or modify the data. But then apart from that, since your data is already ingested from multiple sources, working with it, performing analytics on it, and then driving results out of it is very easy, and that's the primary purpose of DAX. So what are some of the benefits of making use of DAX, right? See, when you're using variables in DAX, what happens is that every variable that we use in DAX can be reusable. So here, you will really not have to write multiple queries to get a lot done. Small amount of queries can do a lot to your source database. And at the end of the day, variables are these entities that makes DAX expressions understandable by us. So keeping it high level, keeping it simple, ensuring reusability is set makes our job very easy when we work with DAX or data analysis expressions as well. So when you ask this question, make sure to provide the answer in a clean and a crisp way. Now, coming on to the 16th question. The 16th question states, what is bidirectional cross-filtering in Power BI? Well, BCF, as we call it in short, or bidirectional cross-filtering, is actually used to allow the data modelers to make sure that they can use filters the way they want to control the relationship between tables. As the name suggests, it's bidirectional, right? So we'll have a secondary table here, on the other side of the actual primary table relationship, where we propagate the data on the filter context from the first one to the second one. This is done to make sure that you really don't have to use any sort of complex DAX formulas or any, complex data modeling entities that will help you solve the relationship. What happens whenever we discuss about many-to-many problems, and to avoid, the ability of actually going to mix up the data or messing up the relationship in the table as well. So with this cross filtering, we are trying to use multiple tables again to make sure we determine the relationship and then work with it. So what this does is it simplifies the job for data modelers whenever they have to work with the many-to-many problem, and simplify on how data can be used, pre-processed, analyzed, and of course at the end of the day documented and published in the required formats as per the client's requirement or as per the goal as well. So this is what bidirectional cross filtering is. Coming on to the 17th question, it is, how are relationships defined in Power BI desktop? Well, one thing you should know about Power BI Desktop is that there is no null values, there is no duplicate rows, and there are relationships in between tables that can be defined in more than one way. So what are these ways? We have two things. One is we can do it manually. The second thing is we can make use of the auto detect feature for this. If we have to do it manually, if you have to define the relationships manually, then the user can go on to use the key structure, where you can use primary keys, where you can use foreign keys, map the data, and then work with it. But then if you have to make use of the auto detect feature, right? With the auto detect feature, if we have this enabled, Power BI has the capability to actually understand the relationships in between tables and then map the relationships for us automatically. Sometimes it does it right, but then sometimes it's a minor case where one or two relationships can get a little twitchy and messed up. In that case, of course, you can manually go in and fix it, but do understand that it's very powerful. It knows what it does, and 95% of the time it has the capability to detect it automatically and split out and create the relationships that we want in the case of Power BI as well. So with that, Power BI is something that offers a lot for a lot less effort that we put into it actually. Now, moving on to the 18th question, it says, what is advanced editor in Power BI? Well, advanced editor, as the name suggests, is where we try to see the query that Power BI uses whenever we go on to import the data. The query is actually written in a language what we call as the Power Query formula language, or in short it's called as the M code. So to view our particular query code, right, especially when we're making use of Power BI Desktop, just go to edit queries from the home tab. This is where you can directly access it, and you can work with the advanced editor to see what query is being used. It will display the query for you, what is the current query that's running, what query have you selected, and what transformations you can apply on it as well. So of course, to apply the actual transformations, we're going to have to go into the query editor and select each individual step, type in the query, and then work with it. But then one thing you really have to know is that all of the things that we can do, right, to the particular code that we're talking about, it's easily done in the case of advanced editor because it provides all the basic functionality and a lot more as well. So in that particular case, you have the basic functioning bare bones of it, and you have a lot more features that you may or may not use as well. So to check out all of these, make sure you're talking about the M code, make sure you're talking about how you can go on to actually use the advanced editor and what the advanced editor does as well.
Just a quick info, guys. Intellipaat provides Power BI online certification training in partnership with Microsoft, mentored by industry experts. The course link is given in the description below. Now, let's continue with the session.
Now, moving on to the 19th question, it states, why should general formatting be applied to data in the case of Power BI? Well, this is a very generic question, even though it might seem a little specific, because at the end of the day, general formatting needs to be applied to a lot of data that we have, right? See, in Power BI, what we're trying to do is we're trying to categorize the data, we're trying to identify data, and we're trying to see what's the easiest way we can work with it. So to do this, you will require relationships. To do this, you'll require custom formulas and a lot more, right? Now to do all of this, let's say you have to create a new column to work with it. You can go on to add a custom column, type in the name of the column, type in the relationship, type in the formulas, and it is just 4 or 5 clicks away. So general formatting is basically done to make sure that your task can be reduced to a minimum at the end of the day. As that's exactly what Power BI aims to do. You having to do a lot less for the code, and the code in fact is going to do a lot more for you. So to have a new column name, have a new box for it, have a formula for it, to map a relationship, to see what it does, is probably 5 or 6 clicks away, and it's as simple as that. So to kind of leverage this, we make use of general formatting. Now, coming on to the 20th question, it states, what are the most common data shaping techniques that are present in Power BI? It's not just Power BI. There are many other business intelligence tools that use this as well. Some of the most common things are, manually removing columns and rows based on the requirement. We can add indexes to keep the data a little more structured. We can apply a sorting order to see how we can work with the data and how we can actually, work with it in a structured way. And of course, there are many other things too. But what are some of the most widely used data shaping techniques? If it is asked, the answer is this: either manual removal of column and rows, or addition of indices, or of course sorting the data based on an order as well. So moving on to the 21st question, it says, which in-memory analytics engine is used in the case of Power Pivot? So one important talk about Power Pivot is of course its in-memory analytics engine, right? And there is no other engine unlike X Velocity in my opinion, because this engine has the capability to handle large amount of data, store it in columnar databases and present it to you like it's absolutely nothing. Like it doesn't break a sweat to do it. That is how efficient it is, and that is how intelligent it can get as well. So this is done very quickly in a very rapid manner because the data actually gets stored onto the RAM, and since it is on the RAM and not on the hard disk, your processing speed, your data read speed, your data write speed has gone exponentially up. And what this does, it makes sure that your processing speed is very high and that you can use it rapidly as well. And this is exactly what makes the X Velocity engine very powerful as well. So with this, we can come to the 22nd question that states, what is Power BI Designer? Power BI Designer is actually a new tool that's been put into Power BI where it provides the ability for the users to create a lot of good looking reports, intuitive dashboards without you having to put much effort again. So you can change the visual aspects of the data, the aesthetics of the data with probably 4 or 5 clicks as well, because this is done to make sure that you can spend a good amount of time with the actual process of the goal, with the actual process of making a decision based on the analytics that you just drove, rather than having to spend time creating all of these reports. So this easy manipulation of the aesthetic part of it is exactly what Power BI Designer does. One thing about the Power BI Designer that Microsoft is doing right is that they have put in a lot of drag and drop capabilities. What it means is that you can start dragging in and dropping in data, let's say where you want to create a canvas report, or let's say if you have a layout where you want to start dragging in widgets, dragging in charts, dragging in maps, whatever it is, right? It's only a mouse click or a pull away. That's how simplified things have become in today's world of Power BI with the help of Power BI Designer. So when you ask this question, make sure to answer it in a clear and a concise way. Coming on to question number 23, it states, is it possible to refresh Power BI reports after they get published to the cloud? The answer is a very simple and a straightforward yes, because gateways are put into place for us to do just this. After the reports have been pushed to the cloud, we can edit it and we can refresh it based on the changes in the data that has happened. So how can we do this? There are two ways. So if you've shared it using SharePoint, then we have the DMG gateway or the data management gateway that we make use of it. And then if you've shared it on powerbi.com, then we have the Power BI personal gateway that we can make use for this purpose. So depending on how the data gets published to the cloud, either by using SharePoint or either by using the powerbi.com website, we have two gateways that help us refresh the data. Now, after understanding this, there could be a follow-up question which states, what are the gateways that are available in Power BI and why do we use them, right? See, a gateway is, as you just saw in the previous question, a bridge that is used to gap the differences. And a gateway, as you previously saw, is basically a bridge that is used to gap the on-premise data with the Azure cloud services that are present. So to do this, right, to make use of gateways, there are two types of gateways that are present in Power BI. One, we have the personal gateway and we have the on-premise gateway. A personal gateway is one where we can have the data imported and make sure we use it, but only by making use of Power BI service and on their website. So by making use of personal gateway, check out the name, it says personal. This means that it can only be used, accessed and worked on by one authority or one person. Now, we have the on-premise gateway. On-premise gateway is, let's say, an expanded version or an addition to personal gateway with a lot more features. Here you can work with direct query, you can have multiple users work with this, you can have many users refresh the data to see the progress as well, to see when the refreshes happened at what time. You can basically get analytics about refreshing as well. So that is how powerful gateways are. So when you ask this question, make sure to talk about the personal gateway, make sure to mention the on-premise gateway, about how personal gateway only works for Power BI service, while the on-premise gateway allows multiple users to work with as well. Moving on to the 25th question, it states, how can geographical data be mapped into Power BI reports? Geographical data can be mapped into the Power BI reports in a very simple fashion. It's by making use of map charts and filled map charts, right? So I'm sure if you're at this point of time in your interview preparation, you will already know this or you would have used this as well. So by making use of map charts and filled map charts, we find the easiest way where we can visualize geographical data, be it your local locality, be it your local regional data, or global data as well. Power BI has a one important integration is with Bing Maps, where we can pick up the default coordinates for locations. You can use geocoding, and you can make use of mapping places without having to know its latitude and longitude coordinates directly as well. So with this integration with Bing Maps, it makes it very intuitive for the user and the developer to actually go on to work with the tool, rather than working on understanding, knowing, noting, and using longitudes and latitudes as well. But then, of course, if you have to use it, you can. But there, do you have to compulsorily use it? The answer is no. Now, moving on to the 26th question, it says, what happens when you click on a single data point in one of the multiple visuals in a report? See, it's very simple. What happens when you click on a single data point is that the data gets selected and copied into your clipboard. That's about it. But then it's a very tricky question, and sometimes people fumble upon answering this, but then do not do that. Now you know the answer to this, right? So when you go on to do that, all your data gets selected, the single data point, of course, it gets copied to the clipboard. And of course, whenever you have copied data, you can paste it anywhere that you need it and use it. And this is at the end of the day put into place to make sure that you can work with Power BI effectively, and you really don't have to spend much time with all of these native things as well. So when you click on a data point, it gets copied. Use this in the clipboard to paste it wherever you require it and use it. As simple as that. Moving on to the 27th question, it states, what is Z order in Power BI? Z order is actually a design strategy that is put into place where we try to arrange the visuals by making use of certain shapes. So what the Z order does is that, we can define it, we can have an implementation where we're trying to show the report which consists of multiple elements, where we're trying to refresh the display, of how the order of elements gets changed in case the reports itself are changed. See, you will have data in the reports, and this will be constant and working fine. But then if your data changes in the report, there's a very good chance your report can change too, right? So let's say your order of item changes, your item entity itself changes, or there's a change in the relationship. In this particular case, we make use of this strategical approach where we are trying to arrange our visuals by considering the shapes. So with this, what happens is that, when anything changes, right, it really doesn't mess up the dashboard or mess up the workstation, but it works really well and it holds the aesthetic ability for the display as well. So in that particular reference, Z order is a very important thing in Power BI. So coming on to the 28th question, it states, how do you stay up to date with the new and upcoming concepts in Power BI or in BI itself? See, whenever you're talking about this question, right, in a business intelligence interview, this is a very commonly asked question. The interviewer here, he or she, in fact, is trying to assess your interests of Power BI to see if you have the ability, the interest to actually, go on to explore new things that come into this world of BI and how best you can leverage it. Because today's software is tomorrow's obsolete when you think about it, right? Even in the case of Power BI, yes. Just check out the initial releases of Power BI and Power BI now. There's a day and night difference with the number of added features and how simplified Power BI is to use these days. So in that particular case, the interviewer tries to understand how you approach something new, how you understand it, how you learn it, and how you implement it as well. Because it's not just learning new things, right? In the world of business intelligence, there is a problem that requires a solution. It is as simple as that. If you know the latest bells and whistles, the latest tools and techniques that you can go on to use it, then of course it makes your job very easy. It saves you time and money. It saves the employer time and money. Now at the end of it, the interviewer wants to understand how well you are prepared to scale yourself up in a production environment as well. So if you're a fresher or a person out of college, you might not have a lot of production experience, right, in a production environment. Now with this, the interviewer can get a solid idea of you having the capability to learn new things and effectively build on it too. So answer it in a clear way, state your interest. So state how you find your own ways to learn new things. There is no one answer here that will fit for all of you guys. So I suggest you sit, have a notepad, make note of how you learn new things and state it that way. Now, moving on to the 29th question, it says, do you have any experience working in the same industry as ours before? This is definitely a commonly asked question in a Power BI interview because, as I told you, business intelligence is required for every industry, every field that you can think of in one way or another. So let's say if you're applying, for the military, let's say if you're applying to perform business intelligence for a social media, for a hospital, or let's say a medical firm, in that particular case, they will want to know in case if you have worked in the same domain. It's just data familiarity. It's just knowing that you will be a better fit to that team there. So if you're a fresher, of course, you can just say no, that you really don't have any experiences, or you can take a little intelligent approach where you try to probably talk about the projects that you have done either in a certification program or in your college or something that has helped you understand this industry that you're trying to apply to. So make sure to talk about the experience in case if you have the experience. But then if you do not, if you're a fresher right out of college, then do talk about the tools, the techniques that you have used, and how you think that'll be a best fit for the industry that you're applying for now. Moving on to the 30th question, it states, have you earned any sort of certification to improve your learning and your implementation process? This is a very, very, very important question because interviewers, especially in the world of business intelligence, they understand the weightage, they understand the leverage that a certified BI, comes into the picture. Because at the end of the day, they know that if you have put in time and effort into a certification program, that you've learned something new, it provides them a confidence that you have the ability to work on your career and that this is what you want to do in the long term. That you have the strong aspiration to actually learn on new things, pick up new things, and eventually solve problems by making complete use of your knowledge as well. And of course, you being an effective learner is something that they'll definitely look forward to if they're hiring you, right? These are some of the aspects that they expect for. And with a certification program, you already know that you will have comprehensive knowledge taught by experts. A good certification program will give you industry level projects. It will give you access to a lot of things where you can learn Power BI or any other IT concept for that matter. Learn it, understand what the problem is that you're trying to solve, find out ways on how you can approach experts, learn from them, and at the end of the day work with a community, or you can solo it out to solve a problem. Because any IT concept, right, think about big data, think about AI, think about business intelligence, whatever it is, everything here is put into place because we want to make use of the computational power around us to simplify a problem or simplify a task to the fullest. That is your advantage. And as first I mentioned, the first 3 points we discussed was the advantage that the interviewer wants to see in you. So when you're talking about a certification program, right, it always adds value that you talk about what you learned and how you implemented your learning there. You might have 3 or 4 certifications, or let's say even more as well. In that particular case, quickly list all the certifications you have, and if you feel like the interviewer wants more details about what you learned, which he or she definitely will do, in that particular case start elaborating about what you learned and what you got out of it. Because the outcome of a certification program is very important, not what the certification program is. So talk about what you learned, talk about how you plan to implement it, talk about how you have already implemented it in the past, and you should be good. Well guys, I take this opportunity to wish you guys all the very best for all of your interviews. With this set, you have a clear idea of how you can approach these top Power BI interview questions in a clear and a concise way, and how you can answer them to the best of your abilities as well.
Just a quick info, guys. Intellipaat provides Power BI online certification training in partnership with Microsoft, mentored by industry experts. The course link is given in the description below. So guys, we have come to the end of the session. Hope you all enjoyed it. If you have any doubts, please put down in the comment section below. We will try to answer it as soon as possible. Thanks for watching.